All righty. Nikki, nice to meet you. I just met you for about 5 or 10 minutes backstage. We got a chance to talk, and I felt like I already got to know you a little bit, and then you sent me a voice message for your first time, and I was like, oh, now I know what she sounds like too. So I felt like we already knew each other when we went live here. But this is your first ever live stream, right?
Right.
And Jeff's
I've got a couple of little videos on my YouTube that's like shared for the family, but other than that, no, I've never put my face out there really.
Nice. I'm very excited. I have been excited. I usually get excited for these. I always talk about how I feel like everybody has their things that they enjoy more than others. I enjoy game nights. I enjoy doing things like that, but I definitely have my things on my channel that
well, I like the fact that you keep things at a variety of things going on.
Yeah, so. Yeah, and I think that's the thing is like if you're going live, you do it for the people watching. You're doing it for the chat, so you want to keep it fun, and that's the biggest thing for me is making sure I pay attention to the chat. And so I appreciate you. I was telling Jeff backstage on Monday night, I was like, your mom is the one person, even Holland Oates. I was like, outside of maybe Holland Oates, I was like, and maybe Johnny. I said, Nikki, since I've come back to YouTube in March, I was like, she has not missed one of my live streams. She has been in the chat for every single one.
There's a few people that I'm kind of like that with. I try to make sure I'm right on top of it, and I enjoy who's in those particular chats, and I enjoy kind of like the content, and I notice that the people that like the same content are the ones that are kind of like circling around these chat rooms, and so I've kind of felt comfortable to like chat it up with a few people and stuff like that.
And I always talk about that, like, so I do have a lot of the same people on my channel. There's no denying that. And I try to get a new person, new face here and there. But I said, like, I like having the Johnnies, the Jeffs, the the Tonys, the Tims and stuff, and Fishes of the world and Mizzy, because people like them for one. They don't create drama. That you're not going to have a scene, like that one moment between Jeff and Ashley. And it was like, oh, this could go down a whole nother way. And the two of them were just so adult, you know what I mean? And it's like, and I know we're all adults, but not everybody acts like it. And
it's just nice that you guys have developed friendships with each other that, make it comfortable to jump around and help each other's channel out, and just have good conversations, and that's that's really what it's all about. I mean, we all love our movies, so to be able to just bust loose a conversation, and you guys are all friendly and nobody really steps on each other, and yeah, you guys pick back and forth, but so do brothers, you know what I'm saying? So it's like it's fun to watch.
Yeah, and my dad last week after the stream was over, we were backstage, I was with Stacy, and my dad says, you need to he says, why don't you, because my dad, I fell in love with movies. I started collecting VHS since I was like 5 years old. I remember the first movie I saw in theaters, and I think I saw some others before that, Disney type of stuff, but the first one I remember, like adult film I saw, was Anaconda in theaters with my dad, and that's how I fell in love with movies. And he got me into collecting all that stuff, but he loved to he's like me, loves to dissect a movie. And so backstage after the stream was over, he's like, why don't you guys ever talk about a movie and then like dissect it and talk about what it means to you? And I was like, funny story, Dad. I have a stream, which I haven't done in so long, but I was like, I have a series called What It Means to Us, where we take a movie that usually means something to a lot of us. So I want to do Castaway soon, eventually, because I love that movie and it has meaning to me. But in the ending, I could talk about for like 4 hours. But it's one of those things I was like, we do that. We've done it with It's a Wonderful Life. We've done it with The Menu and The Whale. And I was like, we just dive deep on one movie for like 2.5 hours talking about what it meant to us. And he's like, that's cool. Like, that's what it's about. He's like, that's what you're doing here. And I was like, I'm glad you realized that, because I think a lot of us appreciate that. It's not always.
That's why I offered Corey when I had mentioned in a chat one night in your I think it was game night one night, about what my all-time favorite movie is. Well, the next thing I know, I'm watching Corey on a Friday afternoon lunch stream, and he's got the movie. He just received it, and I was like, oh, got real in contact with him and asked him to come on Jeff's channel with me and discuss it, because I don't know too many people that have seen it.
Which movie?
The Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean with Paul Newman.
I've never even heard of it.
It is the movie that makes me love movies.
Okay. And we all need that too. Those moments, I talk about that often, where you watch something and you're like, this is why I love movies. It's a reminder. It feels like, we need that every once in a while, especially when you're going through stuff. You're just like, I need a break, and then you fall in love with the movie, and you're like, yeah, this is
Well,
sitting
and with
here.
that particular one, it's like it's a Western, but it's set up to where it's got comedy, it's got drama, it's got, all the things you love about cinema. And it's like all these wonderful stars are in it. You get Stacy Keach for 5 minutes of it. You get John Huston for 5 minutes of it. You got Jessica Lange. And it just goes on and on and on. And it's like just the silly things that happen, the dramatic things that happen, the love story that happens. It's all just meshed into one story. And that's what I like about storytelling.
I haven't ever heard of it. Like I said, it's not on her list if anybody's wondering. But I like Westerns, and I don't mind the 60s or 70s. And speaking of, there's a couple movies from the 50s and 60s tonight that we're going to be discussing. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. But I'm going to catch up with the chat. We do have 137 comments at the moment. Majority of them are probably going to be highs back and forth. I'm going to try and skip over that. Ava is your granddaughter, correct?
She is.
She is, yes. And she commented on my post and said, I hope you get to 2K subscribers soon. And I thought that was really cool. Thank you, Ava. I appreciate that. Thank you for being here. She says you are the best person in the universe. She is obviously.
I get text messages from her daily.
That is
just
awesome.
All hearts and how thank you for giving me my daddy life so I could have a life, and I love you. You're perfect. You're amazing. It's just every day.
That is awesome. That is a good feeling. My niece, who is 4 years old now, and she was about 4 at the time. Well, my brother-in-law Jake gave her like a phone, but the only thing she could do is FaceTime, and he put like 6 numbers on it or something like that. Me, mom, and so on and so forth, grandma. Well, I kept getting numbers from this email one day. It was an email setup, because it's not a phone number. And eventually Jake's like, he calls me one day, my brother-in-law, he says, you've been ignoring my daughter's FaceTime phone calls. And I was like,
she was brokenhearted, Bob.
Yeah, she was. I was like, it's an email, and he's like, are you stupid? Rosalie, whatever, at something email.com. And I was like, I don't know. I see an email FaceTiming me. I don't know what that is. I didn't
exactly
FaceTiming me. So anyways, like he gets off the phone with me, and 5 minutes later she FaceTimes me again. I blocked the number at first because I kept getting FaceTimes from it. And then I finally unblocked it, and she ended up FaceTiming me. It was just cute. You got your 4-year-old niece FaceTiming you. So I was like, she knows how to use a smartphone more than I do.
And she has your phone number, so you better answer.
We got Joe in the chat. Caveman, what's up, guy? Johnny's in the chat saying, what's up, cool kids? We got Mizzy in the chat. I just talked to him on the phone right before we went live. Marie says, hi, everyone. Welcome, Nikki. Have fun. Johnny's saying, since it's Jeff's mother as a guest, I may have to keep my potty mouth in check tonight unless Bob forces my hand. And you guys were joking about that backstage, I heard. We got Corey in the chat saying, hey, all. Hi, Bob and Mom. Speaking of the devil right there, Corey. Jeff's here saying, Johnny, you don't have to behave. Holland Oates is in the chat. If I do skip anybody, I do apologize. I can never skip this guy. He's my favorite person. You know how your granddaughter said you're her favorite person in the universe? Mm-hmm. Tony's my favorite person in the universe. Next up after that, we got Helen. He's actually probably at the bottom of the chat saying, would you just start the stream already?
Right.
Like, stop talking. Fish is saying, good evening, Nikki, Bob, and chat. Thanks for sharing it. We got April in the chat. She's another one of my favorites. She is awesome.
I love April.
Johnny picked a winner. Damn it, April is here.
Yeah, Johnny, you do have to behave.
And no, it's not okay for Johnny to be mean. April is seriously the best. We got Magic Hands in the chat. What's up, Mike? Caprice is in the chat saying, hello, everyone. What is up, Caprice? She's been watching a lot of these lately. Movie Hunters in the chat saying, evening, everyone. So that steel book you got of The Strangers. Very nice artwork, but poor packaging. I don't know if you saw that video that Tony did. We got Tim in the chat saying hi. I sent him a picture of one of the movies from your list because it's from the 50s. So I know he would appreciate it because Tim loves the 50s and 60s and all that stuff. We got Draculina Horror just saying hi, Tony. Fish, we got Mama Blu-ray in the chat saying hi, Tony, Fish, and Johnny. Tim is just saying it's all one big community. Yep. The meetups are so cool too. And I honestly, that meetup in March in Tennessee, it was like one of the best weekends of my life. It's like a big family. We're one big family and Bob brings us together. So there's the big family coming. I appreciate that, Johnny. Thank you very much. I'm a drama papa. LOL. Let's see here. Johnny just saying hey to Joe. A lot of highs to Tony, back and forth. We visit for the movies, but stay for the friendships. Yep. And it's cool how movies can bring people together the way it has brought us all together. We've got Marie in the chat. Hey, Johnny, Holy Oats, Ms. and Fishy. Mama Blue is saying Sue and I always discuss the movies we just watched, which is super cool, especially mother and daughter. I think that's awesome. Eli saying, what's up, everyone? I always enjoy chatting with Sue every once in a while. Draculina Horror just saying, I'll start a petition, Tony. We got Tiana in the chat saying, hey to Johnny. Bob doesn't do email. Holland Oats.
Bob doesn't even text.
I don't text. She's right. I hate texting. It's so true. I may need to block a few numbers on my phone. Tony says, niece blocked. I watched the Batman for the first time. We've got Miss Jess in the chat saying hi to Caprice with hearts. Tiana, my dear. Jess, hi, Jess. And I think I caught up with the chat. If I skipped anybody, I do apologize, but I do want to get started. I want to dive right into it. If you're ready, we're going to dive into number 10.
Let's do it.
All right. So, okay, before I get started, actually, I want to talk about your list. So, looking at your list, there were 3 movies on your list. And I was like, nope, I'm not going to like these. No, I'm not. And we'll get into it.
Were you wrong about any of them? You don't have to tell me which ones.
I was wrong, very wrong about 2 of them. Okay, and I thought, the hell with these movies. I'm not interested in these. It was 3 of them. And I was like, okay, these are going to be the last 3 I watched. Well, they weren't the last 3 I watched. I ended up watching them kind of in the middle. It just worked out that way. And there was a couple that I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to like this a lot. And I might not have. But yeah, so it's just interesting. But I got to pull out my phone so I could get my notes. Sometimes I take them on my phone and sometimes I take the notes on paper, old school. I do like being old school, but it's hard to write in the dark.
Right. I get that a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's see number 10, what it's going to be here. I got to pull it. I got a ton of notes for some movies, so and then some I don't have a lot of notes for. It just depends. Where is this one at? Did I not take notes? Why is I forget? Oh, here we are. Okay, got it. All right, so number 10. Whatever happened to Baby Jane? Okay, so this is a classic, and let me tell you, this is the one I was talking to Jeff about. I said, and everybody, I was like, it's from the 60s. It is a classic that is beloved. I hated this movie.
Oh no, hated.
I bought. Okay, so last year in a meetup with Tim, my first time meeting up with him, actually, he surprised me there. And we were looking through digibooks, and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane was one of, I think it was Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. It might have been a different one, but he was like, you don't even like old movies or something like that. But I collect all digibooks. Like if it's got a digibook, I collect it. And so I ended up buying it. And I didn't even open the digibook. I watched it a different way. But this movie, I wrote, holy cow, this movie was so boring.
Oh no. I didn't think it was boring, but I did have it as your number 9. So
okay, and we'll go over that at the end, so you don't have to. But okay, so it was low. You figured, so you were right there. Absolutely nothing happened for the first hour and a half. It's just building suspense. I get that, but this didn't work at all for me. I wrote, great score and excellent performances, of course. And so finally, at about an hour and 40 minutes in, something happens, and I'm hoping it would get better, but then nothing really exciting happens after that either.
Right.
And I wrote, can you please explain to me why this movie is so loved? I genuinely can't understand or fathom how this movie is so beloved. It was boring to me. But I respect people's opinions. I don't sit there and go, oh, you're wrong. I don't do that. That's not something people should do. Film is subjective. But can you explain to me why you loved it so much?
Okay. When I was probably before I was born, my dad had a 16 millimeter projector. These were movies that I grew up watching. The intensity of it, the whole dynamic between the sisters, the hatred, and just to be that nasty to somebody else. She did that really good. I love Betty Davis. I can't help it. That's
Oh,
just
those eyes, Betty Davis eyes.
you betcha. You betcha.
Yeah, I like that song a lot.
Yeah. So this was one that we had a cousin that lived out in the country, and we would go to their house and in the summertime and put the projector out and put a big old sheet on the side of the farmhouse and watch these kind of movies, and it gave me such an appreciation for things like Hitchcock and all that. I don't know, I love Betty Davis. I can't help it. Now Joan Crawford, I could take her or leave her for most days.
Now, I do remember hearing that the two of them hated each other.
They really did.
Yeah, Betty Davis kills her role in this. She does. And Tony said Bob probably watched this at 2 a.m. while he was sleeping. Tony knows me too well.
And it was black and white. He thought 62, maybe it had some color in it somewhere. No.
We sat backstage, Jeff and I, until about 6 a.m. Eastern time on Monday night. So, and then Tony's always just like, dude, when do you sleep? So I was like, Jess probably got to get to work too at some point. Thank you, Blu-ray. Miss Jess, your outfits on Facebook have been gorgeous. Bob is canceled. I love Baby Jane. I called him and asked him if he's ever seen this. I told him I was gonna watch it that night. He gave it 4 stars on Letterboxd, so that's pretty high for him. No, Bob. Wow, hated.
At least my favorite ones on this list are not there, so that's okay.
Yeah, I don't know where I put this on your list, but we'll see. I got it right there. First hour and a half, everything happened. Canceled. I never heard Tony get so bad. He said canceled in caps locks. Tony's canceling people now. Whatever happened to Baby Jane, Joan Crawford, and Betty Davis, right? Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. So canceled. Hi, Tony. Get him, Tony. Hi, guy. Baby Jane, boring. Come here, Bob. We got to have a chat. I told you.
Okay, guys, just know that if that's his number 10, my list was pretty good. So
Tony's not with your malarkey, Bob. Love Betty Davis. Baby Jane was so good. Yeah, I mean, I knew it too. I knew this one was going to piss some people off. Honored to finally meet Mommy Jane Doe, Nikki. That is Prince. What's up, Prince? I think will love Nikki's list, Tony says. Tony, I don't think you've seen a lot of them. I don't think you've seen many of them. It's funny because I ran through, and I don't usually tell people, and I didn't tell him what these movies were. What's up, everybody? Sorry I'm a little late. We got Ashley in the chat. What's up, Ashley?
Hi, Ashley.
People saying hi to Ashley. I love Nikki, April says. So I reached out to Tony, and I asked him, I just was going over movies, and I asked him, have you seen, and I went over, I think, all 10 of your movies, and he says, who's the one who gave you all these old movies?
Some old broad.
And I was like, you gotta wait to find out. But they are, because there's not a movie that came out in the last 25 years on your list.
Nope.
I think they're all
for the last 15 years I've worked and didn't really I missed a lot of movies. So I'm just now getting caught up with a lot of the last 20 years worth of movies.
Okay.
My movies are repeat watches, and I like them, and I rewatch them.
And I got a hodgepodge of everything on my list to give to you. So
awesome.
I tried to find some from the 40s and 50s that you might not have seen either. I like to do that to people that I know would appreciate older films versus like a Mizzy who's not so much into the older stuff. So
which is horrible, because some of the things that you and him discuss, I was thinking of one that I would recommend for him, but
which one?
It's called Imitation of Life.
Oh, okay. My buddy told me about that one. I haven't seen that one, but Imitation of Life. Okay, I gotta check that one out because my buddy wants me to check that one out. He's like 58, so
yeah, I can give you old movies all day long. I mean, that's no problem.
Yeah, I think the ones that I'm trying to give you are going to be tough because I think most of them you have seen, so it'll be tough. Old movies are bangers, Ashley says. They really are. There's some good ones, and I'm going to get into that later on when we're discussing some of these. But because I didn't think, a lot of times, and I'll talk about it later. I don't want to talk about it now. Bob loves older stuff. Older stuff. Terrible. He's talking about older women. That joke is running gag. All right. Is there anything else you wanted to say on that one? I gave that one 1 star.
Okay, fair enough.
I just didn't like anything about it, but it's really good performances, but it's not for me. I was bored by it. And I won't get into spoilers because there wasn't a whole lot to spoil. All right, the next one might surprise you. You don't have to say where you had it. We'll go over that at the end because I'm
Okay.
curious. I'm always curious about that, how you would have predicted it. I might want to start predicting before I watch them. There's sometimes I want to predict what I think I'll rate these or rank them because
Right.
your list, I was so off on when I predicted it, completely off. I wasn't. There's nothing I
You
would.
said emotional, heavy story. You said
No, there's. I
I
messaged
tried
you
to
and I
do
said
that.
there's some depressing stuff on this list. I said good
Yeah.
job, Nikki. I said not a whole lot of
Yeah.
comedies. I said you know me well.
Yeah.
But okay.
And the
Number,
one comedy that I gave you that I'm sure you laughed your ass off, I'm sure you cried too. So there's good, you know.
I feel like I know which one it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see if I'm right because I think there's only one comedy on this list really. Okay, so number 9, which I think is the one that you said my dad would like. Is it this one?
Oh yes.
Star 80. So
Ugh.
Mizzy knew because Jeff rated it. I didn't really like this. Now we talked about this. I think it was last week or with Stacy potentially of Hurricane we were talking about and the true story. I didn't even know who the woman was in this movie.
Right.
So I'd never heard of her story. I didn't know the Playboy, anything like that.
And the reason why I fell in love with that movie is because when I seen it as a teenager, I had already heard it all really on the news as like a 10-year-old little girl.
And so my dad, when I called him and I asked him, I said, "Have you seen Star 80?" He said, "Is that the one with the Playboy?" Well, this is a spoiler, but it's a biopic, so it's
That's
a true
okay.
story.
Yeah.
So I'll put spoilers on the screen. It's a true story. So if you don't know the story, but my dad, I called him and I didn't know the story. So he says, "Is that the one where she dies at the end?" And I was like, "Well, thanks for spoiling it." But it's pretty much clarified in the very beginning of the movie that she's gonna die. I'll take spoilers off the screen. No spoilers now. But so yeah, my dad knew of it. He knew who she was and everything. So
Yeah.
my dad likes the story. He's seen the movie. For me, I wasn't invested because I don't know anything about that. So I do think when you have zero clue about it, I think that makes a difference. I'm trying to pull it up. Okay, I was really looking forward to seeing this one too. I was like, this looks good. I don't like the way the story was told. However, Eric Roberts, that is one of the best performances I've ever seen. He kills it in that role. I wrote, just didn't enjoy this one. I don't think it's meant to be an enjoyable movie, but I just couldn't get into the story. I know it's a true story. One I had absolutely no clue about before I saw the movie. Something about this, actually, I liked about this. Or something about this, actually a lot about this I just didn't like. However, Eric Roberts' ridiculously creepy performance is out of this world, but everything else I didn't really like. Brutal way to end it. Like I said, don't know the whole story. I knew she was, well, a spoiler, but I knew what was going to happen to her, I'll say. But outside of that, I didn't know much. I wasn't really into it from the start. I wanted to see this one too after looking at your list, but something from the start just didn't work for me. I think the way the story is told, I really just didn't like it. And then I wrote one more thing. As I thought more about my feelings toward this movie, for example, I see that KB, Huck, Dell, and a few others have seen this. KB had a 3.5. Huck has it as a 3-star on Letterboxd. They grew up like yourself in that era, and so I think probably hearing all about the story, they heard all about it. So as much as I love the 80s and every bit of, I'm a bit of a product of it, I didn't grow up then, so I don't think that played a factor in my thoughts on this one. I didn't know she was or who she was. I wasn't invested in the story. I called my dad and he's like, "Yeah, is that the one where she dies at the end?" And he's like, so he actually spoiled it for me, but I'm like, spoilers. And anyways, yeah. So it was a true story. I just didn't know anything about it and I wasn't really interested. But go ahead and share your thoughts on that one.
I don't know. I mean, it was the up and coming time of Eric Roberts, and you're right. Like that's a phenomenal performance by him. It's also a great performance by her, and you know, with I don't know, just it was another one of those that, of course, I wasn't allowed to watch it when it came out, but as I got older, I was already curious about it, and just the story of how, you know, Hefner was with those girls back then and all that. Like, I think they could have played that up a little bit more. But to me, when I saw it as a teenager, it was horrific because I knew it was real. I knew it was, you know.
Yeah. And I think there was, because this was like 2 years after it happened to her or something like that. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah. So some people found it a little disrespectful because they didn't let it age. They just kind of ran right into it. I was reading some stuff about that, and then just some. I think there was some issues with Hugh Hefner and not being okay with everything, and so I think that might have played into some stuff. I'm not entirely sure.
Well, and what's funny is they wanted him to actually be in it, and I don't know whatever happened and why he wasn't, but I know his brother is the guy that's the photographer in it.
Okay.
So he's actually Hugh Hefner's real brother is the guy that's taking the pictures of her. That throws him out of the studio. That's actually Hugh Hefner's real brother. So I mean, I guess the family had some stuff to do with it. But
now this one I gave 1.5 to. So 0 for 2 so far. We're gonna get some better ones though. Don't worry.
We're getting there.
Yeah. It's all uphill. That's why I start with number 10. I would not want to end the stream on a sour note.
Right.
I'm gonna catch up with the chat, and then I heard Jeff laughing. Let's
like
see.
I don't hurt my mom's feelings, man.
I gave Bad Boys the full 5. I have the absolute guts. I love the Tony has me cracking up with each canceled.
Tony
canceled another one. So I'm 0 for 2 in Tony's eyes. Oh my goodness, Tony! I'm pissing Tony off tonight. He does not approve. I'm sorry, Tony. You're still my favorite person, though. What in the world? Oh crap! Laugh Aloud, Nikki. I watched Fantastic Planet. Loved it.
Good.
Star 80 is 8. No, it's number 9. Wow, number 9. I'm shocked. I mean 9. Yep, Johnny. It's just that ending that gets me. Besides that, it's a good movie. Eric Roberts is so deranged in this. Yeah, he sure is. Eric Roberts is a great actor. This list must be all bangers if these two are 9 and 10. I think there's a one
down, Joe, because it's a good one from here on out, baby.
I don't think the one from the 50s anybody heard of, though. I don't
probably not
know that one. Martinez Joe Show says need medical alert because I've fallen and can't get up with Bob putting these so low. Laugh out loud, Joe. 1.5, Bob. Damn, I know he's got me falling too, Joe. I enjoy the fact that people enjoy your list. That always makes it fun. The thing about these lists too is I want to give a little bit of both when it comes to lists because I want the chat to engage. So if they've seen the movies, that helps. But I actually like recommending and also watching movies that not a lot of people have seen because then they get to be like, oh, what is this? Let me put it on a watch list versus everybody's already seen it. So I like a little bit of both, which is always nice.
Right. And if all you got out of it was that awesome performance of his, that was worth the watch.
Oh,
I'm concerned.
Yeah, definitely adding this to the list, especially if Bob is giving it that low of a rating, must be good. Actually, everybody. All right, that's how it goes. Anytime I give some, okay, so if I'm the one watching the movies. What did I just watch? And it's number 10. Everybody wants to watch it. If I recommended a movie to somebody and it was number 10 on their list, they're like, yeah, I have no interest in watching that. I'm like, of course. I give it number 10. They want to watch it. They're both good, Ashley. For some reason, I keep thinking Star 80 was done by HBO. And damn, Ashley, Jeff says. Yeah, that's Ashley for you. All right, let's see here. Number 8. You want to dive into number 8?
Sure, go right ahead.
All right, number 8. I also didn't like.
Oh, no.
It's not the only one. All right, it is What Dreams May Come. I know Caprice in her grave on this one.
Okay.
Okay, so I found this to be, I don't know. I wanted to like this one. I really did because I like Robin Williams. Robin Williams is always good. I got so many notes on that one. Okay, I didn't really like this one. I gave it 2 stars, I believe. I'm pretty sure. I don't even have to look because I know in my head like what I gave it. I remember. But yes, anyways, What Dreams right there, 2 stars. So like 2 stars below average for me. Didn't really like this one. I actually forgot to take my notes, so I'm doing it later. I wrote Robin Williams is always great and likable. I'm not very big into the supernatural element type of movies and stuff like that. Not that this is supernatural, but I do believe in heaven and hell. So I found that to be intriguing and interesting. That's something I absolutely believe in. I just didn't care for the way the movie unfolds. And the emotional beats, like I wrote, it tries to get there emotionally, and there's some good moments, but I don't know. I just didn't care enough at those points, I guess. They didn't quite reach the level of emotion it's trying to for me. I think it's poorly made and a pretty sloppy script. Didn't hate it, but I definitely didn't like it. Below average for me.
Okay.
And once again, I appreciate these movies. And let me tell you, some list I look at, right, and I look at it and I'm like, oh, I don't want to watch that. This was one I was like, I want to see this. I really want to see this. I'm
Right.
looking forward to it. So What Dreams May Come and Star 80 so far were two that I was like, I'm looking forward to these. These ones will be at the top of the list. Nope,
Right.
number 9 and 8. So
That's okay.
yeah, but don't worry, there's a couple on here. I didn't hate everything. There's some that
There's a couple that I'm really surprised are higher
yeah.
on the list. So
Yes, already. There's two that I'm like, in what world did this belong up here? But there was one that we'll talk about later because it's not coming up anytime soon, to be honest with you. I was like, why did I like this much? But it hits the emotional beats. We'll talk about it. But yeah, so What Dreams May Come just didn't really enjoy it, but I'm also probably a third canceled by Tony. Let's see. I'll take your word for it, Joe. I'll check them out. Not seen What Dreams May Come, Chris says. It's usually depressing. That's why Tiana says, oh, this is a depressing one. Corey says, what? This movie is good, Bob. Ashley says, yeah, of course. Movie is ass. Sorry, not sorry. So boring. What Dreams is so good, Jeff says. Canceled again, Bobo. I liked it. Good colors. There are good colors. I just canceled. I knew Johnny liked it. He has it rated on Letterboxd. Of course, you believe in hell, Bob. That's all that awaits us Titans fans. What Dreams need a 4K HDR upgrade? Capri said the same exact thing. Yes, Jeff, it does. Bob, you need to do a movie review show. Tony could be like Siskel and Ebert. No need the trash, Jeff. That would be fun. Me and Tony, that would be fun because we have different tastes. But I don't think people would watch that though. Me doing a movie review much. But please tell me your thoughts on this one.
Okay. Her character,
The wife.
Annabella Sciorra, the wife. As much of a I love Robin Williams. I've seen pretty much every single thing he's ever done. The reason why I watched that movie was for him. It was her character. It was the emotional everything she went through, losing the kids, losing him, this, that, and the other. That every bit of that just, I don't know why, but it touched me in a way that well, first I read the book. So let me start with that. I read the book, and the book was so intertwined in the story part about the pull between heaven and hell that I had to actually, I can read a 1,000-page Stephen King book in a week, but that book, 340 pages or whatever it was, I just set it down. It took me almost a month to read that book because it really got into my head. So when the movie came out and I could just watch it unfold and it was so much easier to just enjoy it, I just loved the movie. Now the book was extremely hard read because it really pulls you between that. What you do and how you react to life is what you're really responsible for. Like your approach and your reaction to every situation in your life is all you're in control of. And that movie hits home in that with that thought. Like everything you do can, she's going to trap herself in hell with just that decision and never get to her children and never get to her husband. Like, oof. I don't know. I don't know. I love my husband. I love my children. So it really kind of messed me up a lot. It put me through some stuff with that movie and that book.
Okay. Yeah, and like you said, you're a mother, you've got children, you're married, husband and everything. So she loses everything. So you kind of put yourself in those shoes, it sounds like. And
well, and I've struggled with religion all my life because I just believe that you face your own crap because you hold yourself accountable. I don't know what's out there, but I know that I'm promised it's something better than here. So I just want to be good enough here to get there, no matter what that is. And to not be able to get where I think my children and my husband will be would just tear my soul apart because I do believe in something after this.
And I do too. I'm I'm a Christian, and so Tony and I will talk about this a lot. But like, I've read the entire Bible and everything like that. I
Yeah.
used to study that and stuff like that. So I enjoy conversations like that, and that's why I thought this movie was going to be intriguing. And it's intriguing for me. It just it's interesting story. It's interesting the way it plays out. I just didn't. I don't know. It didn't connect for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Well, I probably read that book when Jeffrey was about 8 or 9 years old, and so not quite as old as what her children were in it,
right
but
around
kind of the same relationship, the same things going on, and so it just hit me. It just hit me different, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so.
I understand completely. I get that. I appreciate your thoughts on that. So that's why I do these. I want to hear, and I'm trying to get better. I'm pretty bad about interrupting people, so I try to limit that. Actually, somebody taught me this a long time ago, and I thought this was a great piece of advice. They said, if you're already preparing to speak, so if you're trying to interrupt somebody when they're talking, you've stopped listening to them.
Right.
Somebody told me, and I thought that was so interesting. And so I really constantly throughout every day, I'm trying to get better and better, because I used to be so bad about interrupting people, and I'm still working on that. But I'm like, I catch myself being ready to speak when somebody else is, and I'm like, okay, stop, like, just listen, like, let them speak.
Well, that gets hard sometimes when you hear something, you have a thought that runs in your head after they've said something, and you got a point on it. So you want to make that point, and so yeah, it gets hard. So I'm like that too. It's okay.
Me and Joe are the worst. We're always talking over each other. I swear, we're terrible about it. Not enough blood and gore. Why Joe no like? Where he says, laughing at Caprice. What did Caprice say? Just about the Tony would walk off camera and never come back. It's a great movie, Tiana. I agree, Chris. Completely agree, Chris. What's up, everyone? Don't forget to roundhouse hit that like button. Good Morning Vietnam is my favorite Robin Williams flick, Joe says. It's a good one. It's not bad. I didn't mind that one. Will Smith slapped the like button. Cody the rad dude. What is up, Cody? We got dude who loves movies in here, just saying hi to everybody. I feel like this is a movie that Cody would like. Listening to Nikki call Jeffrey weird.
And I don't call him Jeffrey, and I don't call him Jeff, so you guys would even think it was weirder to hear me call him Jay all the time.
Johnny has done the same thing. Johnny, what's up, Johnny? Laughing emojis. I'm horrible at it because I don't want to forget what I want to say, and that's exactly what you were just kind of. It's exactly how it is. You're like, you just keep getting ready. You're like, I got to get it out there. I'm gonna forget. Williams is very good in few other thrillers as well. He was also in an episode of Law and Order SVU.
I have loved Robin Williams his entire career, from his very first spot as Mork on the Happy Days show, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, a few years later, I discover he's got raunchy stand-up comedy, and I'm just like, okay, I was a teenager digging that, because my dad listened and watched things like Richard Pryor and George Carlin my growing up years. So I mean, yeah, nothing you guys say offends me at all.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. When you said that in the chat like 2 weeks ago, I was like, okay. I do sometimes have to remember, though, that there's a fine line, because I'm the kind of person who's like, I'm pretty clear. I'm cut and dry. If you don't like my channel, then don't watch. I'm not forcing you to watch it. I'm not going to change who I am to please people. It's just not what I do, okay? I don't care about likes, all that stuff. I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm going to have the people on my channel. If they don't want to join, they don't have to. And if you don't want to watch, you don't have to.
Right.
But you have to remember there are kids watching as well, like Ava. And so...
Believe me, Ava's heard me say worse than I've ever heard you guys say. So there's that.
Okay. Well, then there's that. It offends me. It all offends me, Tony says. I've actually...
It does. I told Bob at the beginning in the backstage that I would be on your list tonight, Tony.
Yeah, twice. She said twice, Tony, that you're going to be writing her name down. Do you want to dive into number 7?
You go right ahead.
Okay. All right. Number 7. I just watched it 2 hours ago.
Okay.
And I love this actor. He's one of my top 5 actors, I'd say. Didn't like this one. It is number 7, Fallen, with Denzel. Johnny's probably out there pissed at me.
You guys can all just beat him up when you see him. It's okay.
It's strange. It's a very strange movie.
It is a weird
I
movie.
thought I was getting a courtroom drama, and that's not what it is at all.
No.
So I was completely taken aback by it. But I don't know. It goes into weird directions with demons.
Well, I kind of thought after. Okay, I'd already given you the list. I wasn't for sure. You had told me you'd watched a few of them already, but I wasn't for sure which ones. And then you were talking to somebody about you don't like movies that show you the end at the beginning and then you have to get there. And so I was like, okay, well, he's not going to like Star 80 and he's not going to like Fallen because both of them do that.
Yeah, and here we are.
And here we are. So,
and it depends, I guess, on the movie. Demons though aren't usually for me. We got a lot in the chat, and I want to see what they say. Bob is permanently canceled. Hi, Mrs. K-Man. I've had Johnny and Joe's name etched in stone for this list at April. Let's see here. Come on, Bob. Fallen is excellent, Sydney Jenkins says. I gave it 2 stars. I was pretty bored by it. I did read it was slow, which is fine. No seen Fallen in forever. Not seen Fallen in forever. Johnny, you're probably number 1 on Tony's list. Hi, Ava. I love my mama. Let's see here. Yeah. Time is on my side. Yeah, that's the song. Time is on my side. Yep, it's a good song.
That look, Bob, that look he gives him when he grabs his hand, like you should have known right then that this movie was going to take off in a different direction.
Yeah,
on his face.
I might have to rewatch this one. Johnny and I'm not on that list anymore. Fucking hell, I'm turned off this stream. That does it. Supernaturals get why you don't like. Yeah, I just this one didn't. I didn't hate it, I just didn't like it. Bob, does Bob like anything? You made the list. I mean, it's these streams always start bad, right? Because I start from number 10. So there are movies on this list that I liked, at least one. And I told you, I said there's one that I really liked. Now, you asked me before the stream started.
What I thought was your number 10, you still haven't gotten to, so.
Okay. I think I know which one it is. Now, you asked me before the stream, is there any that made 4 stars? Because the first 10 lists that I've gotten all had at least one 4-star movie. And I said, you have to wait until the stream starts to find out. But It's not looking so good yet.
It's not looking good yet.
But yeah, so I get what you're saying. And if I rewatch this one, I might like it because once again, I'll talk about that at a later point, but the mood you're in, your energy level, how you're feeling can dictate how you feel about a movie, but also going into a movie and expecting a completely different film, I think can derail your movie because you're like, hold on, I what am I watching? I thought I was getting this and I'm getting this. Yeah. And so it was completely different than what I expected. I thought I was getting a courtroom drama.
Well, I mean, I was hoping, just Denzel hanging there on the fishing hook was enough, to.
And I love Denzel.
Over that, because that's why I was thinking that.
He's one of the best to ever do it. What's up, Mrs. Caveman? I think I said I read your chat already, but hi. Yeah. So it's number 7. Like I said, I gave this one 2 as well. I didn't hate it. Let's just put it this way. So I've always said 2.5 is average for me. 2 is below average. Once I get to 3, everything above that is like a successful recommendation. There's still one more that we got to get through to get to a 3-star rating. So,
okay.
Yeah, but that means 5 films I liked, right? So
right. We're in good shape.
We're gonna get there in a minute. But is there anything else?
Friends afterwards, because I feel like this is going in the direction where I was thinking at least the top 2.
Oh, so. I was not thinking what I've got coming up in the top 3 at all. I was like, in what world did these belong in my top 3? Well, no, the one that's number 1, I figured I would like that. And that's the one that's one of my dad's favorite movies of all time. When I called him, he's like, I love that movie. How have you never seen that? I was like, and then I took my mom to lunch. We'll get into it. But yes, my number 1, I took my mom to lunch and she's like, you've never seen that? And I was like, no, you and Dad never showed it to me when I was a kid. She's like, oh my gosh. And then I told her each movie that you recommended, and I was telling her I'm doing a stream with you, and she's like, that's cool and stuff. So I think my mom said she tried to watch one of my streams once on YouTube, but she couldn't figure out how to work the TV YouTube on there. So, but yeah, anything else you wanted to say about Fallen before we get into number 6?
I mean, no, not really.
Okay. All right. Parent fail. about not recommend showing me that movie.
You're not too far off of my list with that one. So
Okay, all right, and we're gonna dive into spoilers eventually on some of these for sure, because
okay.
there's spoilers on a couple, like probably soon. All right, number 6 has to be the comedy, right? This is the only comedy on your list, I think. The Big Chill.
You call this a comedy?
I don't call it a comedy, but I don't know which one would. Oh, I know which one would be a comedy. Now it's my.
And wait a minute, is that your number 6 or your number 5?
This is number 6, The
Number
Big
6.
Chill.
Big Chill.
I know which one's a comedy. I don't. There's laughs in this movie. I don't.
There's some laughs in this movie. There's some.
It's a drama, I would call it. But okay, let me get into what I wrote. I think this was the first one I watched. It was on Amazon Prime. I wrote killer soundtrack in caps locks. Like this has one of the best soundtracks you'll ever hear. I wrote Jo Beth Williams was a looker in the 80s. She was. I always liked Kevin Kline and William Hurt. So I like the cast a lot. By the way, I was just talking to Ellie before we went live, like a couple hours before, and she was showing me her collection and what she had just bought, and then she showed me The Big Chill, and I was like, "Oh, The Big Chill!" And she's like, "I just bought it from the Criterion sale." And she started talking about how the first time she saw it, she was younger and didn't appreciate it as much. She rewatched it, she fell in love with it, and she's like, "That's why I bought it during the Criterion sale." So I was like, maybe I need to rewatch it. I gave this one 2.5. Excuse me. Fun scene in the kitchen with them dancing. I like that scene. It's a classic scene. A bunch of white people dancing to what is that, Motown?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
That soundtrack actually, it came out in 2 separate sales. You had to buy 2 albums to get it all. There was so much good music on that.
That's wild. That is crazy.
And my kids grew up listening to that shit on repeat.
I wrote, I never realized that Glenn Close had a nice little butt on her. I wrote.
Yeah.
If you've seen the movie, you'd understand that. Great cast with some of the best actors of that generation and probably any generation. Glenn Close is probably the greatest actress of all time. In my opinion, it's an absolute crime she hasn't won an Oscar. It's just not right. Damn you, Meryl Streep. Damn you.
Right on.
Because she's been nominated, I think, 8 times or 6 times and not won yet.
Yeah.
And she was nominated for this one too, for The Big Chill. So it's a shame.
That movie. Oh, now The Big Chill's in my top 5 of all time. Like I can't even lie. Big Chill's in my top 5 of all time. But I also seen that movie the moment it hit VHS. My aunt, I was probably, well, my mom's passed on now, so I can tell this story. I was probably 13 or 14 years old. My aunt came to pick me up. She bought me a pack of cigarettes, and we drank a bottle of wine and watched that movie when I was 13. And that was the craziest, funnest night of my life. I love that movie because of what I shared with her. So it was good. I love everybody in it. The cast is great. There was Meg Tilly. That was her first like adult role, I think. And she was still really young compared to the rest of them.
I wrote Meg Tilly is a much better actress than her sister. But neither of them were really my cup of tea. Although that one scene in Bound I wrote.
Well, and Meg Tilly's also in like older movies when she was much younger, where I felt like she was allowed to be more of an actress when she was younger. I think they stifled her as she got, the older she got, the less she got.
Do you like her more than Jennifer?
Yeah, I think I do.
I do. I think she's better. I wrote, I bet you enjoyed Kevin Kline in those shorts.
I mean, I like Kevin Kline, but I mean, I like the Bad Boys, so I was all about Hurt. I love his character in that. He was such a jackass.
The longer it went on, I just lost interest. It had some fun moments, but I really just didn't care enough about the characters. I didn't buy into any of them. Maybe I'd revisit it one day in the distant future on a Criterion sale, kind of like Ellie did. So this is the first movie I'm watching from your list, and I'm really hoping that this list brings me some joy. I haven't had a lot of time and haven't been watching any movies, so I'm excited about hopefully starting your list. Not the greatest start here, but here's to hoping I really fall in love with some of them I wrote. So that was the first one I wrote, and yeah, because when I watched this, I had taken it like I wasn't watching a whole lot of movies, and I missed that like passion I fell in love with for movies. So, but there's one on this list. Spoiler alert, you got a 4-star, but there's one on this list that I fell in love with. So,
well, now with The Big Chill, like Jeff just watched it not too long ago. In the last like 6 months, his first actual watch that he wasn't just walking through the room where I was watching it. And he said he was glad that, he waited until he was the age of the characters to watch it. He felt it made him appreciate it more. So,
okay. Yeah, like Allie said, she was young when she first watched it. You
Yeah.
call this a comedy? No, I don't look at, to be honest with you, I don't think any of the movies on your
comedic things happen.
Yeah, I don't in the one you're talking about now, I don't even think it's funny, but it's really dramatic. Of course, Death
It
is a
really
comedy,
is.
Bob. That's funny, Fish. The Big Chill soundtrack, super top notch. Big Chill is so good. Agreed, Jeff. Rewatch it when you're older, Bob. Yeah, I don't remember this one being that funny. Bob likes them older. Glenn's still in play. It's a stacked cast for sure. It's still the best get together film ever made, Johnny says. I was obsessed with this movie and the soundtrack. I like St. Elmo's Fire more than this.
See, I love St. Elmo's Fire too. So
I was obsessed with this movie and the soundtrack when I was a kid. Love The Big Chill, Mrs. Caveman says. Yes, Johnny, the Tilly's Pops favorites. Agreed, Johnny. Kevin Costner was supposed to play the character that died, but they cut out his scenes. Ooh, I like Kevin Costner, my favorite actor. Meg Tilly was amazing in Agnes of God. Hi, Grant. Hey, movie people. What's up, Smirk? Grant, my darling. Hey, Smirk. Hey, Grant. Just a lot of highs back and forth. We got Tristan in the chat. What's up, Tristan? Be meeting him sometime in April.
yeah.
Looking forward to that. And hi, Smirk. So, hey, Smirk. All righty. Did you want to dive into number 5?
I mean, I'm ready when you are.
If you had anything else, you could interrupt me and just say, "Hey, no, I got some more to say about it before I move on." So,
No, I mean, if people have seen it, they understand probably why it wasn't one of your favorites. But I mean, we could talk about Jeff Goldblum, but the only thing you can say is Jeff Goldblum is himself in every single movie. So
I'm not the biggest Jeff Goldblum fan.
yeah, I mean, he's a good filler.
I mean, a lot of women are like, "Oh, he's so sexy," and I'm just like,
No,
I don't. Jeff Goldblum.
he's never been that for me. No.
I don't think he's very funny. I don't. He's not my favorite. I like him in The Fly though, the Fly remake.
He's a good actor, but
moments, I think, like you said, he kind of just plays himself though. I've never seen him do anything that jumped off the page to me.
Yeah.
Where I was like, damn, he's a really. I think out of this entire cast, I mean, outside of maybe, I don't know, Jo Beth Williams, she didn't really do a ton. She did a good amount of stuff, but he's probably one of the weaker because he's up against a stacked cast here, though.
Right. That it is. That's as far as like of all these movies, that's probably the most stacked cast, except for one more. Yeah, there's a pretty good one, but I mean, there's nothing that I've ever seen William Hurt in that I didn't like. Jo Beth Williams did movie after movie after movie in the 80s, even if it was just small parts. She
just tailed off, though, it seems like. Yeah, she didn't do a whole lot after the 80s, but she was good looking in the 80s, that's for sure.
Yeah, she's a beautiful woman. Sure.
In Glenn Close, in certain things, she looks really good in the 80s. It depends, but I love Glenn Close to death. Her acting I love that woman.
Yeah, she can pretty much pull off anything.
She can, and she's a better actress than Meryl Streep. There, I said it. I don't care. And the Academy's always wrong because Glenn Close is a better actress. But that's another conversation for another day. All right, number 5. You ready?
Sure.
My first 3 stars. It's a low 3 stars because it drags, but it's good. We'll talk about it. Number 5 is Apt Pupil. Very interesting, pretty creepy, pretty airy movie. Where is my notes on this one? Sorry, oh, here it is. I love the camera work from the opening frame. I even loved how the title screen was completely centered and falling down the screen and landed between his eyes as it like started the movie.
Right.
Something I wrote that poor cat. I wasn't going to enjoy watching that cat put in the oven. Glad he escaped. I was like, damn,
Right.
I do this. Great performances all around. It starts pretty good and it ends even better, but damn alive, everything in the middle was as slow as a turtle, I wrote. And
Well, it's psychological, Bob.
I can handle slow. It's just, and I can, and it's not bad. It kept me interested. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop, so to speak. I was like, where's something's going to happen, but it builds. It definitely builds. It takes time to get there. Honestly, I started to lose interest in the middle act. It just didn't pick up. It lost all steam, and I had a difficult time staying with it, but I was able to. It wasn't bad. It's well made with great camera work and performances, but it really could have been shorter. It felt every bit of the 2-hour runtime, I wrote. I think there's an obviously an important subject matter here, but I don't know if it quite delivered its message. Maybe not the way it could have or should have been, but it is obviously a very important topic that we're covering. Pretty disturbing stuff from Todd. He was just obsessed with the Nazi history and the guy's past. Super creepy stuff. And you think though this stuff is actually pretty accurate. Kids are obsessed and have weird fantasies and stuff with serial killers or stuff like that. I think it's a real problem, especially today. People fixate on this stuff and get obsessed. And I think they develop fantasies or become infatuated with it or the idea of doing it. And I mean, the man even tells him you're playing with fire at one point in the movie. And he was asking for all sorts of trouble.
Yeah.
And I don't think he understood. And then at the end, you're like, I think he realized, like, what the hell? I got myself into some trouble here. What was I doing? Yeah, it's intense. It's a pretty intense watch.
It is. That's another one that was a Stephen King novella. And so you can read it just about as fast as you can watch it. Pretty much the same as like Shawshank Redemption, about the amount of time it took to read it is about the amount of time that it takes to watch the movie. And
I love Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, me too. Oh my God. But I mean, I've read about 90% of the Stephen King library. And if it comes out on a movie, I'll give it a try. Some of the adaptations I don't like, but that's for another day. But that's because I love some of the books, But now with Apt Pupil, I don't know. It's so psychological, and it's so like you can see as the more he gets twisted into it, and he's trying to force this man to twist into this game with him, and it's like the game is what's the interesting part to watch, to me anyway.
The cat and mouse, yeah.
So
he tells him, "You're playing with fire, boy." I think he says at one point, and I think my dad said that to me before. I mean, as kids, we hear that a lot. You're playing with fire, and he is, man. You see it in the movie. It's just goes down a rabbit hole, and it's like, what are you getting yourself into?
Yeah, and he becomes so much darker the longer it goes on, and the more risks he takes with it, he just gets darker and darker, and you can tell it's eating him. And
the more he learns, and then that scene though when he buys him the outfit,
yes,
and he forces him to put it on, and he was like, "Okay, stop." He's like, "Again, turn to the left, turn to the right," and then he starts to get scared.
Yeah,
you can see the panic in his eyes.
Did you realize one question? Did you realize the guy in the basement in Apt Pupil? You know what I'm talking about? The basement scene.
I remember that. Yeah, the guy.
That's the same guy that grabs Denzel's hand in Fallen.
Oh yes, he's in Chicago.
Elias Cotis.
He's in Chicago PD.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
That's the same guy.
I'm gonna put spoilers on the screen so we could talk about the actor who I don't think is a good actor from Friends, David
Schwimmer. Yeah,
I don't think he's a very good actor. I don't think a lot of people from Friends, no offense, Fish, sorry, I know, and I like the show Friends, I don't mind it, but the woman who plays Phoebe and the one who plays Ross, I don't think can act. I'm not a fan. Sorry, Fish is dying in the chat right now. He wants to slap me, but I'm not a fan. And I like the one who plays Joey, but he's not a great actor either.
Jeff said Schwimmer's mustache was pervy.
He's well, he ends up the guy. So at the end, we're talking spoilers now, but he basically tells him, "I'm gonna say that you tried to like inappropriately
Yeah.
touch me," and he's like, "What are you trying to say?" What did you think of the whole ending and even the hospital scene?
Well, I mean,
into that because it's intense. That whole
again, because I read it first, seeing it play out, I felt like they did a really good job of how it was supposed to go, and again, like this is one of my all-time favorites. Like, you know, for me, Apt Pupil's a 4-star movie. I love this movie, but it's the twisted that draws me into it. It's just, you know, you're trying to pick apart what they're, but he does it to everybody. He ends up manipulating the parents. He manipulates the school. He manipulates everybody he messes with. And it's like, you can tell the kid's mentally not okay, but you know, he's functioning. So it's like, it's messed up. You know?
I do like Brad Renfro. I think he's a good actor.
He died of a heroin overdose.
Yeah, I remember that. But he was in one of my favorite movies of all time, which is The Cure.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about.
He was in The Client too. So you like those courtroom dramas? He was the kid.
I haven't seen The Client though.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he's the kid in The Client. So watch that one next if you're going to watch, you know, more courtroom dramas soon.
I did like the actress, I think, which was his love interest in the movie, just briefly. She plays Becky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought she was pretty. I always like eye candy in movies. It always helps. My dad's the same way.
Right.
It's a little eye candy every once in a while. Yeah, the ending's crazy though. It's a wild ending. It's a lot to unravel at the end from David Schwimmer's character to the hospital scene. I mean, yeah, you're the principal of the school, and this kid he wins one over on you. I mean, wow.
Yeah, you really start to wonder how long was this kid messed up, because he didn't just come that way when he discovered the Nazi stuff. You know, like that. Just, you want to know what kind of made him become this, so that when he was presented with this information for this school project or whatever the hell it was that he was doing with it, like, how was he so messed up that was, or was it just the fact that he figured out this guy was him, you know? And is that what like crept into him? And, you know, I mean, I don't know.
I do believe though, like I was saying earlier, I truly believe that this movie is accurate still to this day, because I think a lot of kids get so fascinated by serial killers and they inspire to be like them, or they just want to learn about them. And I think they get obsessed. I mean, from, you know, Gacy to, I mean, everything. You have kids out there who are like so fascinated by it.
I went through a point in time as a teenager where it was Manson family, everything. I had to know as much as I could possibly find out. But it didn't twist me up, you know. Right. I mean, you know, I just
obviously, but yeah,
I like to research it. I like to know what happened because it was before I was born, so it was just.
And I think that's the difference between not letting you want to learn about it, you know what I mean, versus wanting to. You get twisted up, like you said. You become. I need more. I want to become like that, or I want to force.
I want that type of power.
Yeah.
And that's what I think his struggle was, is like he got that in his mind that he could make him be that again. And you know this guy's went 40 years at this point and never, you know, he left that life behind. He got away from that. He doesn't have to, you know, but then this kid just brings all this back up in him, and then it's like a torment to him. So now, is that like the kid's way of paying him back for the torments he created, or, you know, but none of that matters because he still does it to him regardless of why he does it. But it's like, I could never try to want to control somebody like that.
Yeah.
Dig into their psyche that way. It's like, oh, that's too much.
I'm gonna take spoilers off. So spoilers are off the screen, just in case you're listening or not listening, or you're watching or anything like that. We took spoilers off. Hey everyone, Tristan says, pretty great stream. I need to see Apt Pupil. So good thing is he might not have been on the screen when I dissed some of his favorite Friends characters based on Stephen King's story. Hey Draculina, only seen Apt Pupil once, might check it out again. Hey Smirk, how are ya? Like Shatner, Bill Murray and Jeff Goldblum. Basically, you hire them to be themselves. Okay, cool.
Right.
I can understand that. Howdy, Caprice, Johnny, Tony, and Fish. There's a good movie with William Shatner called Kingdom of the Spiders, which is a good one, and Kino Lorber's putting it out. I recommend that to a lot of people if you like any kind of insect movies. Jeff says, watch it again, Johnny. It holds up. Hey,
Hi, Quinta.
Who is Quinta?
Quinta is a coworker.
Oh, nice. Well, look at that. She pops into the stream for you. That's awesome support. Stuff like that is super cool. Well, hi, Quinta. Hopefully
She actually went to school with Bree, but I work with her, so.
Oh, really? Okay. Bree was awesome. Super cool.
Bree's amazing.
I was telling Jeff, I was like, meeting April and Bree, because I had never met the two of them. So I didn't know what we're meeting for the first time. They're not in the community. They're not in the chats much. You know what I mean? Like, you haven't seen them. We haven't talked to them. I didn't know what to expect. And April and Bree were so cool. At first, Bree was quiet, and I was like, does she not like me? But then Bree was just awesome, and April was so cool too. And I was like, I would hang out with these two. You could bring them anytime.
I told Bree the other day, thank you for doing this family thing with me. And she said, no, thank you for letting me. So, like, yeah, I absolutely love Bree. She's like, I didn't have actually a daughter, so, she's the best thing next to that, and my other daughter-in-law, and it's like, yeah, Bree's amazing. So,
yep. Jeff picked a winner. Jeff and Johnny did good. The Martinez Joe Show says the client is fantastic. Yep, haven't seen it. There are spoilers in this live stream. Yep. Oh no, not big coming from my friends. Everybody loves April. Johnny says, yep, sure do.
That's right.
Okay, let's see here. Do you want to dive into number 4?
Sure.
All right. So
I'm real surprised.
Number 5 was 3, so you were 5 for 10 pretty much, because I don't do, like, I know Tony and different people, like, you might rate something 1, but it might be your number 2 on the list because you didn't think it was a well-made film, but you enjoyed it, so it's your number 2. I'm the kind of person, like, if it's a half star, it's definitely the last one. If it's 1, and so I just go up like that. So if it's 3, everything's above it. So yeah, 5 out of 10, which is okay. I'm okay with that. So I always tell people anything above 3 stars is a successful recommendation for me. I didn't hate Big Chill. I thought it was okay. And I wanted to, like, Fallen and What Dreams May Come and even Star 80. I wanted to see those. So they weren't like, they're disappointments, but I wasn't sitting there like, oh, I don't want to watch this. I was actually excited to see them. And the next one I was very excited to see, which is number 4. And you're probably still dying, like, what is going on? Just like Adam was. And so many other people. But number 4, here we go. You're going to be surprised. It is Dead Man Walking.
Ooh, okay, good.
Number 4. I gave this 3 stars. It could be a 3.5 on a rewatch. It might be something I like a little bit more. Another slow burn. It is a really well-made film. And I think this was one of those where I should not have put this on at the moment I did, because I wasn't in the right frame of mind for this. And I really think this needs a rewatch for me in a couple of years where I'm more focused on it. And I
just knew you'd be okay with him getting his just desserts. So that was.
Yeah. So I wrote very slow, but well made. I didn't really like the score. Meshed with it. It messed with the tone for me and feel of the movie. Just my thoughts on that though.
Right.
Incredible performance from Sean Penn and also Susan Sarandon. Really the whole cast though. Incredibly heartbreaking movie. I was like, yeah, I spelled that wrong. There was 2 words. And great message about forgiveness and letting go of hate. I thought that was a great message. But overall, I wasn't really all that into the entire middle of the movie. I guess I wasn't in the mood for this one, like I said. I really do believe the mood you're in plays a factor into how you'll feel about a movie at the time. And I don't know, I was just distracted at the time, I guess. I just didn't have my mind focused. And you need to be really into this movie. Yeah. And so I also need to eliminate distractions in watching a movie. Everything today is vying for your attention. And
Right.
that's why I like taking breaks from Instagram and just taking breaks from people, because then I can focus on things that I need to focus on, whether that's work or watching a movie, and I shut everything out, and I really like that. Like these streams, I don't think about what bill do I have to pay tomorrow. I got to get up in the morning for work. I got to go pick. I don't think about that stuff. I just live in the moment, and I really like that. And something I learned, I don't know if it was from a movie or a book or somebody's, probably a movie. Be where your feet are, and I really like that. And don't try and live an hour from now, or live in the moment. Be focused on what you're looking at in the moment. Don't worry about what happened yesterday. Don't worry about tomorrow. Focus on the present and live in that moment. I think that's great advice.
Right.
But yeah, that's not that this movie is relating to that, but it's a good movie. It's a really well-made movie. And it's directed by Tim Robbins.
Yeah. Which is Susan Sarandon's husband.
I did not know that.
Yes.
They're still married?
As far as I know.
Wow. Have they been married a long time?
Early 90s, late 80s, something like that, maybe.
Johnny's got to fast check it. We go to Johnny for any fast checks.
Right on.
Usually for years, but now Johnny's got to look it up. Mizzy usually knows that stuff. It's not my fault I'm better than you, Johnny. This is why April's the best, because their banter is just, it's next level. Everybody loves April, 100%.
I told Jeff a couple weeks ago, if Johnny and April would just come on once a week and do those little dessert videos like they did with that Tom Cruise cake, man, I had a blast watching that. I laughed the whole time. They were great. I love to see their banter back and forth.
You know, we talk about chemistry in movies between actors.
Yeah.
When I look at Ken and Michelle, I don't know if you watched them or.
Yeah, I did.
Their chemistry is great because they're funny. Ken is a funny person. Michelle has a really good sense of humor that I don't think people quite understand as well. And Michelle cracks me up.
Yeah,
and then April and Johnny have incredible chemistry as well. So when you look at that, it's like it's you know, when you see that in movies and you're like, I didn't buy into their chemistry. When you watch a Johnny and April, you're like, yeah, you could just see it. There's natural chemistry there. They adore each other, and they're funny. But because of that, I think it translates to live streams.
Right.
So chemistry is super important. That's why I have a lot of the same people on my streams, because chemistry is important. I really like Susan Sarandon. She's an amazing actress. Yep, absolutely. Did you like Bull Durham? Have you ever seen that one, Tony? Love this film too. Nikki has great taste.
Thanks, Joe.
Joe says Sean Penn is damn good in this. Sean Penn is really good in this. I mean, is he ever not good? Joe says I need to watch this one. Basement Blue says live where your feet are at. Those feet need to be on the gas pedal and making that money. Johnny says Sarandon and Robbins together from 1988 to 2009.
Oh, I guess they're not anymore. They
Oh,
were when they made this movie. So yeah.
For a while they were though. Yeah. Anything you wanted to say about this one?
I mean, I was kind of worried about whether or not you were going to like this, just because, you know, the whole dynamic between him and a nun. But I also think that's part of what makes this story pretty gripping, is because she's trying to get him to own his responsibility so he can face his judgment. And, you know, again, it's that redemption, you know, value for me. Now, again, like I said, you know, I was baptized as a little kid. I have been to several churches. I had a really horrible experience with the church, so I don't church anymore, but I do still try to live with values and this and that. And so I understand trying to redeem yourself, forgive yourself, you know, step in front of the Creator with as clear a conscience as you can that you had remorse for what you did. You know, I did some stupid things as a teenager. As an adult, I've sought out those people and made redemption with those people. Even if they weren't as receptive, I know I reached out and tried to correct some things that I should not have said or done to some other people. And I just love the way she was trying to teach this man who absolutely had never had somebody reach out to him or to try to help him in that way or anything like that. And I loved her approach to it. You know, she didn't, I don't know. I'm just glad you didn't feel like it was too religious for you, because
No, but I actually like
that was
So I hate politics in movies, but I like depends on the religion. I don't like religious horror. That I don't like.
Right.
We actually like religion in movies, depending on, because as a Christian, like one of my favorite movies of the year is a Christian film. So, and most people, I watch these. I was talking to Mizzy about that. I was like, I'm biased. So when it comes to sports movies, Christian movies, a lot of times, and not that this is a Christian movie, but I'm like, it takes a lot for me not to like it.
Right.
So, and it's hard to recommend a Christian movie to me that I haven't seen. So I watch a lot of stuff. I really don't like documentaries are one of the only things I don't watch. I don't. So yeah, Bob loves his Jesus films. I do. I absolutely do. But
and you got a little throw in there, Jack Black, so it was all good.
Yeah, that was crazy.
It was just to see him pop up in that was.
Ava says, I never watched it, but Nikki on this live stream is the best person in the universe. Johnny said he couldn't agree more. Fish says, like Kurt and Goldie, they were together, just not married.
Right.
Brandon deserved her Oscar. Bob loves the Juice films, and that he does, Joe. Yep. Yeah, there was a stream once, and I was like, they were talking about Ken. It was Ken and Michelle, and they were trying to figure out what the heck Unsung Hero was, because it was like one of the top box office movies that weekend, and they were like, what is this? And I'm in the chat like, I just saw this. This is my favorite movie of the year at the time. And Johnny's like, you must be joking. And I was like, no, I'm actually serious. So, but you know, it's a film is subjective. Everybody likes different movies, and they're making better Christian movies today than they used to. It used to be a lot of just kind of propaganda and shoving it down your throat, but I think they're a lot better made now. So that was number 4. Yep. So are you got to be surprised, right?
I'm totally surprised.
Yep. I was very surprised.
I mean, okay. So like what I have down as your number 1, you have not said yet, but the other 2 I had as your 8 and 10. So we'll see.
Okay. All right. I think you know what my number 1 is. I think you're going to know. There's no way that the number 2 and 3 are your 8 and 10. I'm telling you, we're right on number 1. There's no way that you put one of these as the number 1. So number 3 and 2 are popping up right now. Let's get into number 3, which is the one from the 1950s.
Okay.
This is All Mine to Give, 1954, maybe in Technicolor. Yeah, there's a lot that I wrote down for this movie. You got to keep in mind, I
was this one of the first ones you watched?
No. This
Okay.
is the 8th or 9th one I watched.
Okay.
I rented this on Amazon Prime because I couldn't find it anywhere else to watch. And I'm usually good about being able to find movies. There is so many notes I wrote on this movie. So you could sit back, grab a bucket of popcorn. I will try to avoid spoilers if I get into it. If you haven't seen this movie, it's hard not to talk about spoilers. So maybe you want to mute us. I don't know. I'll try and avoid spoilers. I'll put it on the screen if I'm going to spoil it. I wrote, I know it was the 50s, but dang, that score didn't match that fight scene at all. It was somewhat laughable.
Right.
It was pretty funny, and that was funny. But outside of that, I wrote everything else here. When Jimmy says, you stay away, and he tells his dad, but Papa, they're always after me. And he says, I can't help but think that kid has more game than I do now. We talk about the girls.
Right.
I'm like, that kid has more game than I do. When I was a kid that age, though, I was the exact opposite. I was like, I love flirting with girls. So, because he's like,
you didn't tell people what movie we're talking about, Bob.
Wait, I didn't pull it up.
I didn't see it pop up. Did he? Oh, okay. Oh, my bad. Okay.
All Mine to Give.
Oh, yes, you did. Yes, you did. Okay.
Number 3, All Mine to Give.
I was too busy laughing at you. Sorry.
Okay. Now, this is a hell of a Christmas movie. So Jeff and I were talking about this one. Owned it, but never seen it. Agreed, Johnny, that he does. Okay, so, okay, let's see here. Yes, my notes. Okay, that was the only time I ever saw Papa cry. Is a quote I wrote down, and I wrote, I've only seen my dad cry twice in my life. Actually, maybe during a few movies. He'll cry during movies like me, but a lot like my dad, I don't cry in front of people unless I'm watching a movie. Then a movie will get me crying. It's funny because I won't cry in front of others either, but I'll tear up during a movie with no problems, I wrote. So the only time I ever saw my dad cry was when he fell off a roof. It was the first time, and I don't know how old, 9 or 10, fell off a roof, thought he was going to die. He came home, and he cried in my mom's arms. And it's something surreal to see because you've never seen your dad cry, but to think you're going to die, you were going to die, you fell off a roof. He was there by himself.
Right.
And then the second
been
time,
bad.
yeah, and the second time I saw him cry was at his dad's funeral, and that was it. When they did the 3-gun salute, I believe is what that is, and yeah, that was those were the only 2 times I've ever seen my dad cry outside of a movie, like he'll tear up. So yeah, you just don't see that a lot. I liked Robbie a lot. I really liked Robbie. I wrote down a quote: stand on your own 2 feet. And I wrote same thing that the father told his wife when he jumped in the puddle. So at the end of the movie, the brother tells his brother, stand on your own 2 feet.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing his father told him when he jumped in the puddle.
It was his way of carrying on his father's morals to his siblings. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Really good. I'm probably most like Jimmy. He had a terrible temper, just like me, I wrote. Damn, Nikki, this movie was sad as all get out, I wrote down. But you know my taste, I wrote caps locks depressing. This movie's so sad. Where does Robbie go, though? So let's talk. It's a spoiler I'm going to dive into. Let me see if I could cover anything that isn't a spoiler in case people are still listening first. And then we'll get into spoilers. Definitely pretty slow moving and it's old, but damn, it's a really good movie and there's no denying that. It's really sad. It has incredible heart, and anyone that has brothers or sisters should be able to find something to appreciate in this movie. That's a lot of pressure on Robbie, and there's something incredibly real to that character's arc. I honestly really liked it. It's not the greatest, but I always try to put myself in the 50s when I watch a movie this old, and obviously takes place in the 1800s. And there's something charming, heartwarming, beautiful, and also heartbreaking to this movie. I also appreciate a movie where characters have to work hard or are forced into difficult situations and have to navigate and find a way. And these kids are forced into an awful situation, and what Robbie does is incredible. The other families stepping up as well. I got a lot more, so bear with me if you don't mind.
Go right ahead.
I have paragraphs. I think my level of appreciation and how real and heartbreaking this movie feels gives it that extra boost for me. It also is really well shot. 70 years later, it still looked really good. You can tell it's an older film, but it doesn't feel dated. What I mean by that is it's old and you know it, but it's not difficult to sit through. It's not old like it's terribly dated. I can honestly see myself watching this every few years on Christmas time, or every December. The 2 words I would use to describe this movie are beautifully heartbreaking, and I love heartbreaking movies that tug on the heartstrings, and I have 2 sisters and a ton of aunts and uncles and cousins. So I came from a big family, and we've all lived near one another. None of us have moved away, so this movie is somewhat relatable to me even 70 years later. It's one of those movies that's probably more like a 3 stars for me, but because of how it makes me feel afterwards and because of the appreciation for the time it was made, it gets that little extra half star because I think it's easy to become so spoiled by the technology and cameras we got today. But the movies like this still serve a great purpose and can still be very enjoyable, and they can even hold up to this day, and I feel like this one does really well. This one was the movie from your list that I assumed I would like the least. I think sometimes I get overwhelmed by movies 70 years old. It's easy to judge a book by its cover. Like I said, we're spoiled, and I think I'm guilty of that. And oftentimes when I open my mind and sit back, I tend to enjoy these older films a ton. It's just being open to it. You got to be open. And so I appreciate this recommendation because it's a good movie. I would also never watch it otherwise. The first half isn't nearly as good as the second half, but it develops the story. And it's paced consistently, unlike me writing this right now, and I apologize. Even if that's a bit slow, at least it was consistent throughout. The other one on this list, I was kind of skeptical on because of the date as well as what happened to Baby Jane, which I hadn't watched yet. So this is why you watch the movies. You might be surprised and you won't always enjoy them. That's life. But it's fun because when you come across ones like this, it makes it worth it. Yeah, it sucks when you watch something you don't like and you feel like you wasted time, but that's part of being a movie buff. You have to give films a chance. If I didn't give them a chance, I wouldn't come across so many hidden gems. Thank you for giving me this recommendation. I appreciate everyone who's made me a list I wrote. And then I still got 2 more things. Sorry, bear with me. I'm curious where you would have predicted this would land in my ranking. So we'll find out. I do want to say it gives me a tiny bit of It's a Wonderful Life vibes. I don't know if you watched that one. You ever seen that? And I really like that movie a ton. So like I said, I have to be open-minded and seek these out and give them a chance. But it's so easy to dismiss them before giving them a chance. And that's not right to do. Always give something a chance before you knock it. And then one last thing was probably a 2.5 or maybe a 3-star movie. throughout the middle, but I was trying to figure out where it would rank with the others until the last 30 minutes. And then the ending of this movie really takes it up a notch, like I said previously. A lot I wrote down. I told you, I'm sorry about that. I apologize.
No, you're fine. That's good.
Thanks for being with me.
I thought it was going to be your number 10.
Not
it's my number 10 off this list, so I thought it would be your number 10. I did, and I figured it would be like a 2-star for you, like below average. However, you appreciate the same things about it that I appreciate about it. So for me to give you, I mean, I didn't give you anything that I didn't rank either a 4 or 5 stars. So with that being said, for that to be my lowest on this list, I grew up watching this movie with my mom. It was something that back in the day played on TV on like Christmas season for her as a child. So when I watched it, you know, Jeff asked me, why'd you give this to me as a Christmas movie, Mom? Like, why? It's so depressing. Because to me, Christmas is only about the family.
And Christmas is not always happy for everyone.
That's right. And
Tim and I a while back did a stream with a couple others and Fish was on it. We did a deep dive of it was my first movie we did on the series, What It Means to Us, and it was It's a Wonderful Life. And we wanted to dive deep into depression and what it's like around Christmas time. And Christmas is not always happy-go-lucky for everyone.
Right. And it's not about and this movie always made me remember that it's not about what you can hand somebody, but it's about what you can be to somebody. So and to me, that dude was the hero of this. You know, he made sure that shit was squared away. When Robbie, it was all said and done, it was squared away. Yes,
Robbie was the man. Now the movie ends, and I got to put a spoiler up because this is a spoiler. I even Googled it. Movies like this just really get me thinking. I gave it a 3.5 stars. But where does Robbie go?
Well, he's old enough he can just go to work. I mean, he can.
Yeah, but he's not.
In that day and age, he could have just went right down to the mine, you know.
And where does he stay, I guess? You know, like that he was going to lose that cabin they had. So I just found that to be, because he was old enough. And luckily they all lived pretty close, it seemed like. It was in the same town, but that was so sad. It's a heartbreaking movie. It's so well made too, though, and it progresses beautifully.
Yeah.
And if you're somebody who has any family or appreciates family, like there is something to appreciate in this movie. And even movies I hate, right? I still find things to appreciate, right? Now there's movies, don't get me wrong, that I hate. And I'm like, I sit there and I go, with all due respect, how can anybody like this? I'm like, I don't get it. I don't understand, right? Like Paranormal Activity. I just don't get it. That's a terrible movie in my opinion. But then there's movies like What Happened to Baby Jane where I don't like it, but I understand. I sit there and I'm like, okay, the performances for one are really good. It's a slow burn. It's as slow as it gets. But like there are movies where I don't necessarily like it, but I sit there and I go, I get why this is so loved.
Right.
And then
that's the movie. Baby Jane is the movie that made me appreciate things like Hitchcock and Twilight Zone. And it's in that, I don't know, realm for me as far as like the thriller, the mystery, the exactly what's she going to do next type of, you know. So.
Okay. I get that. The funny thing is, and I'm sure you've seen it, but there's a Hitchcock movie I was going to put on your list, but I'm sure you've seen it. We'll see at the end.
I haven't seen them all.
I'm sure you've seen Birds, right?
Oh, man. Birds gave me nightmares when I was about 3 or 4 years old, because that was another one we'd sit out in the country and watch on the big side of the house. Ooh. So what I will say about that is it's been so long since I watched it. I'd probably give it another chance, but I've watched Psycho 100 times. But
okay, yeah.
The Birds was my I don't know if I could do that one again movie. So
Birds
I've
was
not
really
watched
good.
that as an adult. No.
Birds was really good. Spoilers are off the screen. We're done talking spoilers. I'm going to catch up with the chat here. Owned it but never seen it. It needs a Blu-ray release. Come on, Warner Archive, upgrade it. So this has a DVD by Warner Archive. And before the stream was over, I sent Tim a screenshot and I said, "When's this getting a Blu-ray?" And Tim said, "Your guess is as good as mine," or something like that. So this movie and a movie called One on One, which is a basketball movie with Robbie Benson from the 70s, both have Warner Archive DVD releases that I would absolutely love to have.
I love Robbie Benson.
I loved One on One. If you've never seen that, I love One on One, and that's a DVD only Warner Archive.
Oh, is that the basketball one?
It's the basketball one.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Oh, I love that movie. When I asked my dad, he's like, "Is that the one with Robbie Benson?" I was like, "Yeah, that's it." Yep.
Have you seen Running Brave?
No, never seen that.
Oh, that's a good Robbie Benson movie, and it's a true story.
Running Brave. Let me write it down. I was telling Mizzy the other day, I was like, nobody has more movies in their watch list than I do on Letterboxd. I have over 1,100 movies in my watch list. Whatever, I'll never run out of movies to watch. I don't complain. I've never heard of this film, but I'm looking it up now. Johnny, please do, Jeff says, and A Heart from Ava. I like that color. Ice Castles.
Green is my favorite color, so anytime she's talking to me or throwing me a heart, it's always green.
Okay, that makes sense. I like blue. Blue is my favorite color, and Tony has blue. Ice Castles, yes, Ice Castles. We were
Ice
talking
Castles,
about
yes.
today. Are you ready to go into number 2?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, number 2. I cannot wait. There's 20 people watching. They're going to be excited about this one. So, if anybody remembers, Adam put, and once I say it, people are going to understand right away. But Adam put fried green tomatoes on my list.
Right on.
So she put Steel Magnolias on my list, and it is number 2. If you asked me before this list, that's number 9 or 10 all day, every day. That
right.
No.
I had it as your number 1. I was hoping it was up there high. This is
really? You had it as number 1.
I thought you would pick number 1 for this one, just because. Well, yeah.
Number 1. My number 1 was your number 8. Oh my goodness! What?
Correct.
Correct. My goodness! Holy cow! We're gonna dive into number 1 and why that you thought I wouldn't like that. What? Okay, we're gonna get into that. Number 2, Steel Magnolias, a movie that Julia Roberts was nominated for an Oscar for. I wrote, I'm not crazy. Okay, I wrote a lot of quotes down because this movie is very quotable. I know Fish loves this movie. I'm not crazy. I've just been in a very bad mood for 40 years. I love that. Is this the movie where they quote, "A dirty mind is a terrible thing"? I said, is that where this came from? Is that where that quote came from?
A
dirty mind is a terrible thing.
Yes,
because I've heard Fish use that as well. And I'm like, now I know where people come up say that. And so I was wondering if that is where this movie came from. And there's another quote that I have a question about later on we'll get into. Okay. I wrote, great cast from top to bottom. I thought that I gave this 3.5 stars. I thought that was Dolly Parton. I didn't know she actually can act. And she can. She's good in it. It had some laughs in there. I didn't laugh a ton as much as they make you think. The relationship between the mother and daughter reminds me quite a bit of my sister Erin and my mother's relationship. They're really close. And so that relationship, I could see my sister, and I have 2 sisters, but my one sister, they're really close. It's the one who has 2 daughters. And not saying that you have to have children or grandchildren to be close with your children, but I do think my sister having kids has made my mom and her really close. They just spend a lot of time together naturally because they have kids. I wrote that funeral scene by Sally Fields, remarkably heartbreaking and beautiful. As soon as I watched that scene, I went to Google and I checked to see if she was nominated for an Oscar. Where was her Oscar nomination?
Right.
That was one of the best performances in that 5 minutes that I've ever seen. That monologue she gives was heartbreaking, Nikki. It was so good, so well performed.
Yes.
Here, hit this. And Weezer puts her in. So I've never.
Go ahead, Lynn.
I've never. Here, go on, hit her. This is your time. And she's like, that scene had me cracking up because we're watching this moment, and that's like a Johnny type. A lot of people where. And she even says it after that scene, like it was getting really heavy. We had to do something. And I'm a person who likes heavier conversations.
Yes.
I actually don't like those moments where you try and crack a joke, but most people, and I feel like Johnny's one of them, where if something gets too emotional, you got to crack a joke in there. You know what I mean? Like we got to get this thing.
Oh, and those were just hitting. I mean, she was right on it. That
she was hilarious in that
Yeah.
scene, and it came out of nowhere for me though. I didn't think that was coming. And she's like, I just want to hit something, and she's like, here, hit this. And she, I was cracking up. A tear was about to come. I went from nearly having a tear in my eye, and I was close to tearing up, to cracking up when she said, here, hit this. She says, you just missed the moment of a lifetime.
right.
But she gets smacked later on in the movie. But damn alive, Sally Field, holy cow, that was quite the performance, especially during that funeral scene. Remarkable acting. I wrote, it's a really good movie. It's quite funny. It's very sweet. It's incredibly acted. It's very genuine. It has heartbreaking and beautiful moments, and I can appreciate the movie, and I can absolutely see the love for it. I just don't think it's really made for me. I hope that makes sense. Some movies I hate, and I think they flat out suck, and I don't see anything to like, right, in it. I don't understand the love for some stuff. And then some movies that I don't really like, I can find something to like. I also understand why so many people speak highly of it. This movie I did actually like quite a bit, but I think it's even better than that. It just isn't really for me. And so as much as I liked it and I gave it 3.5, I can understand why this gets the 4.5s or the 5s it does, or the love from Fish, or I think Allie gives it a lot of love. I think there's quite a few others on my letterbox. I understand, right? It's not made for me. And so for me to give this 3.5 was shocking. But you look at it and it's so interesting how I loved Fried Green Tomatoes and I liked Steel Magnolias.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Johnny's right. There's something about old women. I don't know.
Well, I knew that you'd have at least a good time with it based on your reaction to Fried Green Tomatoes.
Yeah, and I think that's why you put it on there. Yep.
Yeah.
And I want
to. It was because if you remember, I had picked you something different, and that was the backup was Steel Magnolias was the backup.
Yep,
for the last day.
And now I want to buy the 4K for sure. No Oscar for Sally Field but Julia Roberts was nominated for an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. I wrote Eat Shit and Die.
Deserved it. Yeah.
I wrote Eat Shit and Die. Is this the movie also where that quote came from? I was like, all these quotes. I wonder if they started from this movie. But yeah, I wrote this movie is very quotable. I wrote the ending credits with an Easter bunny on the back of a motorcycle is worth an extra half star alone. Takes it from a 3 to a 3.5. But seriously, it's really a good movie. Extremely well made. I can't deny that. But that Easter bunny on the end of the movie as the credits roll on the motorcycle had me cracking up.
and everybody was perfect for the role they were cast in.
They were. And
nobody else could have played those roles and pulled off that ensemble together like that if it wasn't them.
I wrote right here, and lastly, I honestly identify so much with Shirley MacLaine's character.
Oh my God.
Her and Clint Eastwood more and more by the day. I'm just gonna tell people like I identify as this. I identify as Shirley MacLaine and Clint Eastwood and Gran Torino and Steel Magnolias.
Yep. Same. I tell people at work all the time, I'm just eternally frustrated. Leave me alone, you know, and they just don't understand. But I am so much her. I don't want to be that when I'm old, but it's coming. I see it. I feel it already.
I was watching it and I'm like, I'm 33. And I was like, man, I do Clint Eastwood and Gran Torino and Shirley MacLaine in this movie. I was like, I am them. I could see it in 5 years. Caprice wrote definitely perfect casting. I'm going to catch up with the chat. There's about 20 chats, and then I'm sorry, I'll let you obviously talk about the movie as well.
Is it all right while you do the chat if I run to the restroom?
Absolutely, 100%. Steel Magnolias is really good. April says, I love Steel Magnolias. It should be number 1, April says. A buffet of older ladies for Roberts. Wow, Caprice says. One of April's favorite movies, and she won't watch it again. She won't watch it again, though. Fish says, yes. I knew you would like it, Fish. Joe says, love Steel Magnolias. Just mentioned to Bob on Monday. Yep, and I kept it a secret. Bob's in heaven. Bob's in heaven with all the older ladies. Oh my God, Holland. No, because I ugly cry all the time. I knew that was the reason. It's a sad movie. Marie says, hell yes, great story. Steel Magnolias is so good, Jeff says. Yes, this movie is one of my favorites. I knew that. I already knew that, Fish. April says, love Dolly Parton. Tony says, Shirley MacLaine's character was fun. She was really good. Sally Field is a great actress. She's really mean in Mrs. Doubtfire. She sure is, Tony, Jeff says. Johnny says, you're right about that, Bob. You have to find humor in all situations or else you'll go insane. Fish says, damn it, I am pleasant. I just saw a drum eaten at the Piggly Wiggly and I smiled at the son of a bitch before I could help myself. Definitely perfect casting. Amen, Bob. Shirley in this movie is my spirit animal. And I'm pretty sure Allie might have given this a 4.5. Hey, friends, sorry I'm so late. Hey, Allie. What's up, Allie? Hey, Allie. Hey, Allie. Lots of love for Allie. Yeah, tons of love for Allie. Told you, Allie, you're always a popular commodity in this community. Everybody adores you. But Allie just popped in. Just a lot of people saying how I like older women and how this was I think I don't know who said it, but this movie was old women served up on a platter of a buffet for me. Somebody said. So
oh my gosh, but their dynamic is so awesome.
It is.
I mean,
and I
really
think
is.
I think out of all the movies on this list, I think this and the Big Chill and Dead Man Walking would be the ones that I think could grow. Like, I don't see Star 80 getting better on a rewatch. I don't see What Dreams May Come getting better on a rewatch or Fallen. Out of all the ones like that could get better, I think the Big Chill, Dead Man Walking, and Sweet Magnolias can even go like higher on a rewatch. And that's the thing about these rankings. If I did this a year from now after rewatching all of them, this could change.
Right.
So you just never know. How you feel too makes a difference. But go ahead and talk about Sweet Magnolias or Steel Magnolias all you want.
I saw this when it came out, and I don't know what year was it? 89. Okay, so this was the year Jeff was born. And I saw it in the theaters. So I might have already had him by the time we saw this. But I didn't see it the same way I see it now, as he became a type 1 diabetic. And those things happened in his teenage years. As I went back and rewatched this later, I liked it back then. I laughed in all the right places, everything, you know. I was touched by the story in all the right places. As a mother who's been through this illness with this child who's now a grown man, and to see them grow through having that disease, what her mother is going through, just the emotions, because she knows that affects herself being a grandmother as well as being that child's mother. And like, that's something totally I didn't expect to hit me the way it did on the second watch through later on. And then the way it ends, like, I have a really hard time even recommending this movie to somebody verbally and them ask me what it's about, because I can't get through it without getting emotional. Because it touches me that way. It might not for other people, but I have a personal reason why it touches me that way.
It's a heartbreaking movie, and
it is.
That funeral, and I get goosebumps talking about it, but that funeral scene is and you know, the thing, like, with movies like this, you could say, oh, it's made for women, right? And I get aspects of movies, like certain movies where you're like, that, you know, like, there's some movies I hate and people are like, I'm not surprised you hated that. Like, I don't like Lady Bird, and a couple people are like, yeah, I'm not surprised. You know, Barbie or something. Well, a lot of people like Barbie, but that's not here nor there. My point is, though, I actually, both Steel Magnolias and Fried Green Tomatoes, both I wouldn't anticipate liking, but I really did. And that's why you can't judge a book by its cover. And I said it about the older one, like, those two movies, and this is why you watch the list. You know, before I met my ex, like 5 years ago, it's not the greatest, you know, illustration here, but I did not like certain foods. I was like, no, I don't like seafood. I'm not going to eat that stuff, you know, or certain things. And she was like, you got to try it. And I did, and I fell in love with it. Right. And it was one of those things I was like, no, I don't want to try it, or I don't like it. And it was like, have you ever tried it? And it was like, well, no. And then you try it and you like it. And so with this list, that's why I do these streams, and that's why I love doing them, because I would have looked at that and said, no, I don't want to, I don't like it. And you would have said, did you try it? And it's like, well, no, I haven't. Steel Magnolias and All Mine to Give. And it's like, well, they ended up being two of the top three. So it's just the way.
Yeah, I'm still surprised.
You've got to
by
give
this
things a
one.
chance. I'm surprised that this was your one. I always get excited about number one because you and I know what it is now, but nobody in the chat knows. We got Hey Allie. We got Fish saying Sally Field was mean in Mrs. Doubtfire for a reason. He trashed their house and brought a freaking petting zoo there. Because we always call me and Tim are like she was the biggest bitch in the world, and Mrs.
Right.
Doubtfire. Bob's idea of date night is a case of Ensure and some Werther's originals and a murder she wrote marathon.
The one little girl from All Mine to Give is either the aunt or the cousin of Sally Field. I'd have to go back and look at that again, but yeah, so those two movies actually have that in common.
Oh, that's wild. That's pretty crazy. I'd be curious to look at that myself. And Johnny, I do like Werther's originals. I don't think anybody doesn't like Werther's originals. So let's start with me on that. Hey, Holland, Caprice, April, Johnny, Jeff, Tony, Fish, and Evelyn. Evelyn, how do you pronounce that? If you
Evelyn.
Okay, Evelyn. Haha, Johnny. Can't forget the Depends, Johnny. Oh no. Oh my God, Johnny, I'm tearing up. Caprice, Fish says Steel Magnolias is based on a play written about the author's mother and sister. Such a good movie. Johnny says, I'm certain that the Depends are already off at that point. Dear. Jeez. I'm eating sleighs. I think Tony wrote like number one. You ate my begonias. What the hell is going on around here? I love the gun too. With the the bird.
Oh my God, Tom Skerritt in that movie is just hilarious.
He is. He's really
What?
No, that scene cracks me up. Yeah, that I was cracking up at too. Do you want to dive into number one?
Go right ahead.
All right. Well, you know what it is. Let me be clear. It's not a 5, but it's a 4.5 star.
Oh,
And I loved this movie. I loved every bit of it. And when I watched it, I forgot my phone. It was sitting in my bedroom. So I was so glued to the TV. There was no distractions. It was perfect. But this movie had me glued. And it is an officer and a gentleman, which I bought as soon as I watched it on Paramount Amazon for like $13. This is the one that my dad goes, oh my God, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. My mom said, how have you never seen this? And when you go to Letterboxd, some people don't think it has aged very well. And I'm like, y'all are so damn sensitive.
Oh, yeah, no. I was in a live stream the other night and they were talking about it in the chat. And I'm like, come on. If you don't like, they were giving it all kinds of shit. And I'm like, okay, well, if you don't like Luke Gossett in this movie, you're just trash, And
Wait, this was a live? People were really trashing this movie?
Yeah, I won't say whose stream it was because no.
I'll ask you backstage. But but no, who
I'll tell you backstage.
Yeah. No, it's unbelievable to me because you go on Letterboxd too, and Mizzy always tells me you got to stay away from reviews and comment sections, and I'm like, I know I do.
Yeah.
And that's why I take a break because it's everything's so negative. But I watch this and people are like, he's definitely not a gentleman. Like, oh, he's so.
But he is.
I watched it and I'm like, it's just for one, times were different in the 80s, but I was like, I don't see much of this movie that has aged poorly.
His dad wasn't a gentleman. No.
Yeah, I don't. This movie, and I'll get into it, but like, it was the second one I watched after Big Chill, but I watched it and I was like, I don't see how this. Y'all are so sensitive today. I'm like, I can't handle any of you guys because I'm like this. Everything, it's a complaint. Cancel this, cancel that, and I'm just like, y'all need to go. Seriously, y'all need to go. I loved it. I wrote an exclamation point. I honestly don't understand all the negativity surrounding this one. It's probably all Gen Z entitled, spoiled 20-year-olds. I just think. This movie kicks ass. Sure, maybe it's a product of its time. If that's the case, I'm a product of that time too. I wrote because this was every bit up my alley. It was really nice too because I had no distractions. I left my phone in my room and didn't care about it. Richard Gere is by no means one of my favorites. I don't love Richard Gere. He's not. Right. Him and Harrison Ford are, some people love them. They're okay to me. In romance movies, I'm usually Richard Gere is not my go-to, right?
Right.
But I wrote I loved him in this. And then I wrote Deborah Winger was easy on the eyes. My dad likes Deborah Winger a lot.
I love Deborah Winger.
She's very attractive in this. I think I even write at some point, because the first couple movies I watched on your list, I don't think I wrote it, but I was like, you know what you were doing, putting a lot of good-looking actresses on these movies. So I was like, yep, she knew what she was doing. I called my dad before I watched this one to see if he had seen it, and he replied with, "It's one of my favorite movies of all time." And Deborah Winger was hot. That's literally what he said to me. So like father, like son, I wrote, and he knows what's up. Excellent
Terms of Endearment.
I haven't seen Terms of Endearment. No. Excellent supporting cast. Had a little bit of emotion in there. I got a few fist pumps out of me. I was like, yeah, my dad's the same way. He's fist pumps during movies. Yeah. I loved when he helps her over the wall. I wrote, oh man, that scene so good. So good. When he shouts, "I'm talking to you, motherfucker." I love that scene.
Yeah.
And he's like, what did you? I was like, damn. When he says, "I'm talking to you, motherfucker." I want to watch that right now. I'm going to watch it tonight with my dad.
Right on.
Sit. This is my new motto: sit, adjust, pray, attack.
Yeah.
When they go
to eat food. Yeah.
Sit, adjust, pray, attack. I love that. I wrote, it might have lost a tiny bit of steam in the middle, but not really, not for me. I was really completely invested in every character, but it just got so much better in the last 30 minutes. I wrote, I could predict it a bit, but that doesn't really bother me. I'd say a bit cliche in moments, but it's also 40 years old.
Well, and when you predict something like that and it comes to fruition, sometimes you get that yes out of it, you know.
I was talking to Mizzy about this before the stream shark, because people complain about cliches. And I'm like, look, when it comes to sports movies, it's almost impossible nowadays to make a sports movie that's not cliche.
Right.
I do not complain about cliches. You won't hear me cry about it because I'm like, look, there's literally millions of movies now. Movies are about 100 years old now. You're going to have cliches. Get over it. If you don't want cliches, don't watch movies, okay? Because it's pretty hard to find a movie that doesn't have at least one cliche. So you won't hear me complaining about that. I have a lot of appreciation and respect for this movie, knowing it came before Full Metal Jacket. I had to look that up. In my opinion, I like this even more, and I love Full Metal Jacket. Honestly, I'll take this over Top Gun too while I'm at it. And I wrote,
thank you so much, because I've said that for years now. And don't get me wrong, because I really do love Top Gun.
I do,
but there's something about this story that is a little deeper than that.
Yes, and I like Top Gun. I love Top Gun and Full Metal Jacket. Both 4.5s to me. This was better than both, and it came before both of them.
Yeah.
I wrote, but I grew up with The Guardian. Have you ever seen The Guardian with Kevin Costner?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Have you ever seen a movie called Annapolis? Which probably not. James Franco.
Yeah, I've seen Annapolis.
Did you like it?
James Franco, right?
Yes. Did you like that one?
It's okay.
Okay, I love that movie, but I grew up with it. I feel like this movie heavily inspired a lot of those movies.
Right.
And I didn't realize that because I never seen this. And so I was talking to Tony recently about that too. Like when you watch a movie like Dawn of the Dead or any of those remakes, these horror remakes, like I saw The Hills Have Eyes, The Last House on the Left, all those, Dawn of the Dead, all of those before I watched the original. And so you're looking at the original in a different light. You're comparing it to the remake, which you watched first. And we're meant to see the originals first. And so a lot of people are like, you got to watch The Crow before you go see the remake, because I haven't seen The Crow. And then also Suspiria is another one where people keep telling me, watch the original first, because I don't want you to see the remake and like that and then think the original is not as good. And so I try to do that. And I like The Hills Have Eyes, though, for example. I loved the original when I watched it. And I saw the remake, and I think they're both great. But I think that watching this, it made me even appreciate it more, because I'm like, Annapolis, The Guardian, Full Metal Jacket. Not to say, I think those had a little bit of inspiration from this movie. Like, I think this paved the way for a lot of movies. Look, I'm never going to apologize or rationalize why I love a movie I wrote. I don't give a damn what you or anyone else thinks about a movie, about my opinion of a movie. This works so well for me. I loved it. I've hardly had the time to watch many movies lately, and I've been missing that passion and love I have for movies. And I just sat on my recliner with a smile and a fist pump, here and there, and I just missed that feeling of loving and enjoying a movie. This was great recommendation. I'd be surprised if this isn't my number one, but I still have 8 recommendations to go, I wrote, and sure enough it was. I wrote, I feel like this movie paved the way for those and so many others, at least some elements of it. These military army boot camp training movies always work for me. Add in some romance, and this was the perfect movie for me. Give me a little romance in any movie, and I like it. Louis Gossett, is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah, Lou Gossett Jr., yeah.
Crushed it, and he won the Oscar for this.
Yeah.
Won the Oscar.
He is one of my favorite parts of the movie. Mayonnaise!
And Deborah Winger was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, I believe, in this. But Louis Gossett Jr., because when I was watching this and that scene where he's, yelling and everything, I was like, oh, this is so much like Full Metal Jacket. And that's when I had to look up which one came first. And I was like, everybody goes to Full Metal Jacket scene in the beginning. And it's iconic. It's incredible. Don't get me wrong. Nobody talks about this movie and this came 6 years before that, I think. I'm like, why do people not?
That's why I told him the other night when they were saying that movie is boring, this, that. I'm like, dude, if you cannot appreciate Lou Gossett's character in this, you're just trash because you don't even know shit about movies, because this is a good movie.
Now I hear where Jeff gets the trash from, the comment. That's good. Honestly, I really have nothing negative to say. The beginning isn't great. The first 5 minutes, because I wasn't quite understanding what was going on. I was going back and forth a little bit, and I was kind of confused.
That scene with him and his dad.
Yeah, and then the cast and everything. I was just like, what's going on here? And they never go back to it. So that's literally my only gripe. I said the editing and the explaining didn't work for me in the beginning. But we don't get any more of his dad. But outside of the first 7 or 8 minutes, I loved every single second of this movie. It's a bit slow at moments in the middle, but that never bothered me.
Well, and what I liked about the fact that they didn't go back to that is because you get to decide that he never had to go back to that life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for me, that worked.
Iconic. Everybody loves the scene when he brings her out of the warehouse, right? Or the factory. Yeah.
But see, now I had seen American Gigolo too, so
I've never seen that.
Oh, yeah. Well, you get to see him almost damn near naked in that one, so. And you got to remember, I was a teenager then, so.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's why when I watch these movies too, and I'm like, Deborah Winger looked great in this. I think she was like 29 or 30 when they.
Yeah.
Like that, but she looked great, and her friend was attractive too, I thought. And I really liked, she's and that's the thing about this movie is, and I'm gonna, if my dad's up for it, we're watching it tonight. I don't know if he'll want to, but it's either that or The Guardian we're watching. But the thing about this movie, and I got the hand gestures just like my dad, I swear, my mom's like, it sickens me how much you're like your father. And but this movie in the 80s, that's more so how it was, right? Like you wanted to get a husband who was, that's what it was. And it's like people, so I think that's why it didn't age well. Shut the fuck up. It's like,
well, you know what? If you'd let men be men nowadays instead of trashing every man that comes around.
Thank you.
Women's libs screwed up this whole place because guess who works nowadays and would love to sit at home and be taken care of? I mean, these girls don't even know.
And look, I get some things needed to change. Don't get me wrong. But our society has there's a song that says men used to go and fight wars and now they sit back and make memes. And it's his lyrics. And I'm like, I told Mizzy, I was like, that's so true, dude. I was like, nowadays men are wearing dresses. Okay, I don't want to get into that. But like Timothée Chalamet and Harry Styles, that's not a man to me, okay? Like,
I had told somebody one time that I thought women's libs screwed up everything. And they said, what gives you the right to say that? You weren't even around back then. Well, first of all, like just the way things were a couple of 100 years ago, and then all of a sudden you had all these wars and then women had to go and make bombs and build airplanes and do all this stuff because they were the hands-on that were here to do it. And then when the husbands came back, missing a leg, missing an arm, missing an eye, okay, well, you're no good to me anymore. So that's just what women already knew, that they could accomplish these things. However, that's not the way the dynamic was naturally meant to be. Men are supposed to be protecting the women.
Men. They're supposed to be men. Yeah. And I'm not saying it's wrong to be emotional or show emotion. I'm okay with that as a guy. I would, that's it's a
Right. You're allowed to be a human being.
right. It's a part of why I don't cry in front of, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying it's wrong to cry as a guy in front of people. I'm not saying that, okay? But men are not in society today. We're not taught to be men. They
Right.
want us to be. I'm just gonna call it pussies. They want us to be a bunch of wimps, and that's the way I think. And you and I are getting canceled for sure after this stream. After that,
That's okay. That's okay.
So yeah, you can come to the list. Welcome to the family of being canceled. But yeah, I'm not apologetic. I'm done doing that. I told you I had somebody on a comment section.
I raised boys in this world as it is, so I know. I mean, it was really hard because society just beats men down now, and it's wrong. Like, we need strong men to raise strong men.
Yeah.
Like and it's wrong the way society treats women and men nowadays.
Right,
Like,
right. And they pit us in a war.
Yeah.
It's men versus women now, like, and you see it. And that's why I'm like, I need to stay off of social media because it's all negative and it's just men and women fighting. And I'm like, when did this start? Like, where it had to be one or the other. And it's just like, in feminism, obviously, has become about hating men, I think. At first it was, empowering women and women's rights. And now it's just about hating men, I feel like. So.
And now most people are just like, well, I'd just rather stay single.
Right.
Than to put up and do the work. But you know what? Being alive is work every day. So if you don't want to be alive alone, you might have to put some work into a friendship, relationship type of deal. So you have a companion to go through this world with, because it's really hard. And I want to look back someday and say, I've been married for 50 years and I did my work. I love my husband and he loves me, but we look at each other all the time, and understand that the other one's being a lot of work today, So, I mean, it's like, but you work at it, you keep it because you're supposed to. That's what it is. You're supposed to.
One of the best
not make somebody else feel like shit when they're already having a shit day,
One of the best pieces of advice I learned about relationships came from a movie called Good Will Hunting. Thank you, Robin Williams. When he said, let me tell you something, sport. He's like, she's not perfect and neither are you. It's like, it's so true. And then one came from Ashley's recommendation of the Before trilogy, where he's like, you're driving me crazy. He's like, but I'm still here. I want to be with you. He's like, don't you get it? And we see movies like that. And I'm like, thank you. Amen. Like, clap for that, because it is true. It's like, you're pissing me off, but I still love you. It's like, I'm here, I'm putting the work in, and relationships take work.
And we've been together for years and years and years and years. And people are like, oh my gosh, how do you do it for this long? It's like, pick somebody you want to do this work with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, pick somebody who is okay with you having a bad day too, because man, I have way more bad days than he does. And thank you, God, for him, because I don't know what I would do without him, but it's one of those things, like, society makes men feel like, oh, okay, she's too much today. I just gotta walk away. And it's been allowed to happen for so long because the system has just paid women just to be single mothers for so many years that what do they need a man for? Well, you need a man to have a companion, and like, right. I just don't feel whole without my husband. So, maybe that's, I don't know. Maybe I'm just an old broad and don't know no better nowadays.
I appreciate that. When Jeff told me you were still with his parents were still together, I was like, I love that, because we don't see that as much anymore. What do most marriages are like 50% end in divorce now or something like that? And when it was COVID in 2020, they were at an all-time high, right? So it's like
my parents split up after my kids were born. So it was extremely hard for me, because I was like, okay, so did we pretend all these years? Because that's not what I want to do. I want to be in it for the long haul.
And I know, I'll speak for myself, but I know there's other men who, when they see and hear you speak, they're like, protect her at all costs, they say, right? Or like, we need more women like that to speak up, because I want to be a man. Don't ask me to be, you know what I mean? I was raised, you got to work hard, put the work in, things like that. Like, and the thing is, I'm not saying I have to, nowadays you got to make X amount of money, some women, and whatever. I might not have the best job, but I always know at the end of the day for me, like if bills need to be paid, if food needs to be put on the plate, that's going to come before a movie, right? Like I'm going to put the extra work in. I'm going to put extra hours in. I'll do what it takes to succeed and to support my family. And if that means less of this, then that's okay, right?
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. And I want to be in a relationship, but I've also learned that I love being single because I think it's important that I've loved to be on my own, because before
Right.
I didn't know how to live on my own. I didn't know how to be single, and now I do. And I've learned to be content with that. And I think that'll help in a relationship. And it's also given me time to work on myself and understand things that I had to learn from my last relationship, things that I took responsibility for and said, that was on me. I have to fix that. And so I have to fix that so I don't bring those things into a future relationship.
And by growing, you've able to look back and see that you won't make those mistakes again. You know, at least maybe not in the same way, because you're going to be more vigilant to work with that person.
Two piece of advice, and my friend gave this to me afterwards, and it's one of those things you're like, most people could sit there and say, well, that's common advice, or you should have known that in your relationship. But it was, me and my fiance never argue in public because it forces people to pick sides. It's uncomfortable for people. It's not a good look. And then he said, when we're arguing, when we start yelling at one another, we stop, because we understand that we're no longer like listening or civil. Now we're screaming at each other. And he's like, stop. And I thought that was great advice. It might be common sense, but it wasn't so common to me in my last relationship. And then I look back and I'm like, we argued a lot.
And you could ask Jeff. He probably in all his life, he probably maybe heard 5 disagreements ever between me and my husband. And
you didn't do it right in front of him.
And most of the time you wouldn't even know they were disagreements. You know, I can tell you, in all the years we've been together, I can count on one hand how many times voices got raised heatedly. And I've known him since I was 4 years old. So if that tells you how much I don't fight with this man, I fight for this man. So
I love that. I love that. Yeah, absolutely.
I fight for these kids and I fight for that man. And
I love that. I knew there was a reason we all liked you in the chat, but I'm going to tell you, and I shoot straight, right? Like I'll tell you if I don't like you, I will, straight to your face. That's just how I am.
Just cut me off, turn me off, you know, like you throw me backstage like you do them on that.
I've always enjoyed, right? On the game day. I've always enjoyed you in the chats, but getting to know you on this stream, and that's the thing, like even backstage sometimes, I've had conversations, and I always go to Huck, for example. I didn't know Huck very well, and I always knew, we were cool, and then one day everybody left. It was 9 of us, and it was just the 2 of us backstage, and we're like, oh, what's up? Well, all right, we'll sit back here for 20 minutes and talk. And so we sat, and I got to know Huck better than I had just knew him from social media or whatever. And it's like,
I think Huck's great.
And I'm not overly close with Huck, it's more like we talk on social media, that's it. I don't talk to him on the phone the way I would Tony or Mizzy, right? But I got to know Huck more, and I was like, this is a really cool guy. And I think that's the great thing about these streams, especially one-on-ones, is you get to know people better. It's personal. And that's why I love doing these. There's no other people except when my dad pops in. I feel bad for Stacy. I had to apologize. Stacy's like, don't apologize. Your dad was fun. I was like, yeah, I know, but it was tough because I didn't give you the time. I was like, I wasn't quite paying attention to you. So last week, I admit, for my stream with Stacy, I can own up to like my mistakes. And obviously my dad was there, and I didn't know he was going to show up. But like I told Stacy, I wasn't on my game that night. And I apologize to you because I didn't give you the attention you deserved. Because I was looking around and hearing him talk and all that stuff. So, but that's a part of being an adult and owning that and saying, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't give you the attention you deserved, or let you have the floor. I interrupted you too much or whatever. So, but yeah, I'm glad we were able to dive deep on this one in particular. I loved it. I bought it. It's $13. Mizzy saw it. I bought it. And he's like, I think he was like, is this going to be popping up on your stream or something? I was like, no, not at all. I was like, I just like the movie. But yeah, I try to keep these things a little coy. But yeah, we got 61 people or 61 comments to read. So I'm going to try and scroll up to the top and read as many as I can. And then we could kind of end the stream. I'm trying to figure out where I was. A lot of YouTube emojis right there. We got Corey saying hey to Jeff. I have no place to go. It tears me up. Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
In the shower. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? That scene. You don't expect that. Like I thought after
And
you
I love David Keith, so that just seeing that for the first time was like, oh my god. And then it doesn't retch less later on either. I mean, it just, you always feel that way about it.
Oh man, Richard Gere is the sexiest man alive. See, Caprice is another one that she appreciates a man. She doesn't
Yeah.
want a boy. She wants a man. You know what I mean? Basement Blue says it is a great one. Deborah Winger is great. I'm shocked Bob has never seen this. Johnny says, yeah, never seen that one. Great one. Corey says, and I don't want to spoil, and I'm not going to spoil this movie or Cocktail, but there was a resemblance between. Have you seen Cocktail?
I have.
The ending with that in this. Yeah. Tell me that you didn't get some flashbacks and a little bit of emotion.
I mean, I seen them in the same time realm, though. I mean, so yeah.
I love Cocktail about
me
as
too.
I love Cocktail. One of my favorite Tom Cruise movies. I like Cocktail more than I like Top Gun. I like it more than any really of his 80s stuff. I love Cocktail so much. I think an Officer and Gentleman on Paramount Plus. Yeah, he's a big Paramount guy. Grant Johnny says the scene with Mayo and Worley in the hotel. If you know, you know. Damn near made me cry. Yep, it's hard not to tear up, man. That scene, Richard Gere is phenomenal in that scene too.
Yes,
love Deborah Winger and Urban Cowboy. I haven't seen Urban Cowboy either, but
okay.
It's on a list I think somebody gave me, so I'm gonna get to it one day.
I'll wait till you watch it and hear what you say about that one too, because I'm a Deborah Winger fan. Like I love
awesome.
Her, so.
I'm glad you like her. Yeah, you and my dad both. Bob's gonna love Terms of Endearment, and there's a sequel called The Evening Star. To this, there's a
Evening
sequel?
Star is good. Yeah,
it's not Richard Gere or anything, right?
No. Evening Star is a sequel to
Terms of Endearment.
Terms of Endearment.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
Terms of Endearment, Bob would love. It's so good. Shirley MacLaine. You know what? Okay, so some people get annoyed when somebody tries.
Shirley MacLaine is Deborah Winger's mom in that one.
Okay, gotcha. And I like Shirley MacLaine. But you know how some people tell you they get annoyed by people saying you're gonna like this, or I could tell you right now, Nikki, you're not gonna like that movie. I am the opposite. I actually appreciate when people like Joe and Tony say Bob's gonna like that, because now I'm excited to see it. And when my friends and most of these people know me really well, a lot of them, when they say you're not gonna like that, they're spot on. They know. Right. And that's why some of these people ranking these movies, they know that's going to be your number 10, and they're pretty clear on it. Like Ashley knew that was my number 10, and it was my number 10. And some people are off, and that's fun. That's the fun of these too. But a lot of times people have a good idea, like Bob's going to like that, and they're right, or Bob's going to hate that, and they're right. And I appreciate that, because sometimes it saves me the time or whatever from watching it. Gonna get a hate for this, but Top Gun is just average. I like Top Gun. I wouldn't hate you for that comment though.
I was so not wanting to watch Maverick because I just wasn't okay with who they picked to be his son in the second one. And then I watched it and I was like, okay, I was wrong, because I really like Maverick too. But I liked Top Gun that much. But yeah, I feel like An Officer and a Gentleman is more my style than Top Gun, but
so good. Top Gun Maverick. I love that one. Ava says another heart here. Far and Away was amazing, Caprice. I agree with you, Johnny, that Top Gun is average. The only thing I liked about it was Val Kilmer's character. Full Metal Jacket is only good when Hartman is around. I said what I said. I like the first half like everybody else. It is surprises me how many people have seen it. Ratchet trash. He's going with the Ratchet comment. I got in trouble for the Ratchet comment. But I said what I said, and I won't apologize for that either. Tony says, I did not care for American Gigolo. I should have known better. Johnny says, show respect, Bob. Lisa Blount Lynette is an Oscar winner. Okay. I'm like my father. I'm dead. I need to get some sleep. Tony says, Tony, no. Geez, Tony, no. Yeah, Tony, no. Preach, Nikki. Tony says, I've been married 34 years, and my wife and children have never seen me cry. I can't imagine Tony crying. He's like a robot. Johnny says, so Bob doesn't want to cry in front of others, circles the date in April. No, Johnny, you will be nice. Get him April. Love Goodwill Hunting. I still need to see the Before trilogy on Nikki. I just bought that, Jeff. Heart. Yeah, I was thinking of getting it myself, Corey. I'm just hoping it's worth half of my overall funds. Yes, Nikki. Yes, preach it, girl. I told you. She's just like you. She's got that old school mentality. Johnny says, usually when April and I argue, I always come back with, don't you know who I am? I'm entitled. Then she hits me with a cast iron skillet. Don't listen to Johnny. I've never hit him with a cast iron skillet. Maybe a shoe, though.
Swinging a flip flop.
Use that skillet. I think that Johnny had it for that reason. I still like Box. Hello everyone. Just got home from work and checking in. Long day. Adam, check out the replay because there's a couple that you would appreciate on this list. Johnny says, oh, Top Gun is average. Maverick is leaps and bounds better than the original. That's what I mean. I love the I'm Dead Inside, Joe. Hey Adam, and okay, we're all caught up. All right, Adam, definitely check out the replay because the 1 and 2 you would be like, oh, cool. I'm telling you, you'll like it. So, especially after his list, he would love your 1 and 2, and I don't want to spoil it in case he didn't hear it yet. But let's see here. I'm gonna go ahead and dive into. I really enjoyed the conversation though. Seriously, this is like, and I'm not apologetic, so I talk myself into a hole sometimes, a lot of times, but this was probably one of my favorites because I really enjoyed that conversation, a lot of the conversations. And it's different too, because I'm getting to do a stream with you. It's your first time doing a stream, and you're Jeff's mom and everything like that. I haven't had that opportunity to do anything like this. A lot of the people are, around my age. So
right
in their 30s. And Tony's out there like, I'm 55. Let's see here. Sounds like this.
I'm running up right behind you, Tony. Don't worry.
Sup fellas and Tiana. It was a good list. It was. There's some that people will like more than others, obviously, but most people would say this was the best list ever. So rank them myself. Okay. Go ahead and tell me what you would have guessed my ranking to be.
Okay, so I thought number 10 was going to be All Mine to Give. Just because I thought it would be a little bit too heart-wrenching for you.
Oh, no. Depressing.
Yeah, I did. I did. Number 9 I thought would be Baby Jane.
Okay.
And number 8 I thought was going to be An Officer and a Gentleman. And only because I just wasn't for sure you were a Richard Gere guy, and I thought,
I don't care if you're Richard Gere. That movie is awesome.
That movie is off the chain. It's great. Yeah. Number 7, I had What Dreams May Come. I knew that would be a little bit up on your list, just because it's a hard one to grasp. Everything that's happening, everything that's going on, and it drags somewhat. So if it played through a little better, I think it maybe would have came up a little higher. But I had you down for number 6 at Apt Pupil.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, I had Dead Man Walking. So I wasn't too far off with those.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, I had Fallen. Number 3, I thought would be Star 80. Number 2, I thought would be The Big Chill. And number 1, I thought would be Steel Magnolias.
That's wild, that Steel Magnolias. Because when I looked at it, I was like, nope. I was like, nope. So your list was surprising to me, and that's why I do these, because my number 2 and 3 were really low. If I were to, and I might start doing that where I predict what I think I'll give them beforehand. But anyways, let's see here. I'm going to guess your ranking now. So okay. I was off listening to you speak. I had number 10, What Dreams May Come. Number 9, Fallen. 8, Star 80. 7, Apt Pupil. 6, The Big Chill, one of your top 5 of all time. 5, An Officer and a Gentleman. 4, Dead Man Walking. 3, What Happened to Baby Jane. 2, All Mine to Give. And 1, Steel Magnolias. But I'm curious to hear what you had them ranked as.
My number 10 was All Mine to Give.
Oh, yeah. It was
my number 9 was Dead Man Walking. Not for any other reason, just the other ones kind of fall closer to my heart a little bit.
You said all 10 are 4 stars or above for you.
Yeah. Number 8 was An Officer and a Gentleman. Number 7 is Apt Pupil. Number 6 was Fallen. Number 5 was Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Number 4 is What Dreams May Come. Number 3 is Star 80. Number 2 is Steel Magnolias. Number 1 is Big Chill.
Okay, so 2 is Steel Magnolias. Okay, so it wasn't 1, but I was close. You predicted as 1, and it was my number 2. So look at that. We were right there with Steel Magnolias. I'm glad we both enjoyed that one. Would I recommend this list? 100%. Not even a question. Look, that's a stupid question to ask because I'm probably never going to say no unless I hate it all. I'm going to tell people either way, like, check it out, regardless of what my thoughts are. I always tell people that. When people are like, oh, you didn't like it, I guess I won't watch it. And usually that doesn't happen. Usually people want to watch what I hate. But when people, anytime they say like, oh, you didn't like it, and it's like, listen, your thoughts may be completely different. Give it a shot. Like, do not go off of what I say, because I don't want you to watch it someday and be like, damn, Bob told me it sucked. I wish I would have watched it sooner. It's like, no, trust me.
And the thing is like, especially like with these ones, you really didn't say anything about, even the ones that you didn't like, that would deter somebody else from, if they like that genre of film, giving it a shot.
Right. And what happened to Baby Jane being my lowest and not liking it? Great performances, good score, very suspenseful, too boring for me. But so it's good performances and everything, right? So, but the slow burn didn't work for me in that one, but others they do, and whatever. Would I buy these? I already bought What Happened, An Officer and a Gentleman. I have What Happened to Baby Jane. I would love for All Mine to get a Blu-ray. I'm buying that 4K of Steel Magnolias with the slipcover now. And the rest, Big Chill I'll buy on Criterion so I can revisit that one day. And,
Jeff bought me the Criterion of Big Chill for Christmas before last.
That's awesome. That is good stuff. Being your top 5, What would I rate your list? Ooh, I didn't think about this one.
Okay.
I didn't actually think about this. What would I rate your list? I'm gonna go with 3 stars on this.
Okay.
So Jeff got a 2.5. I'm gonna go 3 just because of the bottom like 3 or 4. But I did love that Officer and a Gentleman a lot, and that is everything. So let me catch up with the chat, and then we'll get out of here. My dad's probably gonna kill me, but whatever. I'm gonna be like, I was having a good conversation. It sounds like this is a good one. What's up, fellas? It is indeed Adam. Thanks everyone for being here. These, like I said, I'll say what I say. These are my favorite streams I do. I do a lot of different things on my channel, but they're my favorite. I like them because it's not the lack of work that I have to put in. The only thing I do is copy 10 movies on there. I write my notes down and I watch the movies. I love these streams because I love one-on-ones in particular. Right. And I love being able to dive into movies because I'm a dissect a movie kind of guy. I want to dive into it. It's why I do what it means to us. And so I love this. And so the ones who watch all of them, like yourself, Johnny, Fish is usually there 99% of the time. Tony's always there if it's not too late. There's just so many people that watch. I said Joe, I think Jeff is there. I appreciate it greatly. And if I didn't say you, please don't take offense to that. But I think Joe and I will have to start live streaming together. Great list, Nikki. Sounds like Bob. See, it was a great list, Nikki. Let's see here. Great list, Nikki. I love that you had him watch older movies and that he actually liked them. Makes me excited for my list. Also, amazing conversation, guys. Yep. And I'm looking forward to Caprice doing a list. John Doe Juggalo says I'd watch that, Tony. Fish says I'm definitely watching a few on this list. And that's the thing, too, is I love when I see on Instagram people posting, oh, I just watched An Officer and a Gentleman. And it's like, they did it because of that stream. I'm like, yes. So I just think there's something fun to that yours and my stream makes a difference to people. Whether and my big thing, and I've talked to Mizzy about this, I think there's only one film on here that I haven't seen. So not bad, Nikki. I want to make a difference. And I know that's tough to do on YouTube in a movie community, but I think the conversations that we have on this, and with some of them, it might just be like, oh, it was a comedy. Did you like it? Whatever. But then there's some conversations you have about some of these movies, and quite a few of these. I think An Officer and a Gentleman, Steel Magnolias. There's some important conversations to be had on these movies. And I think your conversation can make a difference. And or affect somebody or impact somebody, or maybe they're going through something. Somebody's going through something in the chat, and they heard something you say about Steel Magnolias, and they're like, "I need to hear that. I need to hear that." And I think that's what it's about for me. Game nights, they're fun, but That's all there are. They're just fun.
Right.
It's entertainment. It's not making a difference. It's, I don't, it is what it is. But I really love what it means to us, and I want to get back to some of those. And that's why I'm kind of like, I don't know if I'll do game nights. And if people don't want to watch, and I know they don't get as many views, I don't give a shit about that. I do these because I want to do a one-on-one. The people in the chat, it's a bonus. I appreciate you being here, but I'm excited to talk to you. And so for me, like what it means to us, all those doing a remembering and talking about actors that have passed away in our favorite movies, I love doing those more than any of the game nights. It's fun, but that's what I like to host because I want to dive deep into movies. I don't just want to talk about our collection and show it off, do movie hauls. That's why when we do these meetups, I don't care about the Blu-ray hunting aspect of it. That's fun, but I'm going to meet you guys and hang out. That's what it's about for me. It's not about the oh, what did you guys get and show off your collection. That's cool, but I'm here to I'm here to get to know people. That's why the subscriber count isn't important.
That's what Jeff said. His favorite part of it was getting the live recommendations from you while you're there with the movie in hand.
Yeah, the subscribers.
So it's basically this only there.
Yeah. The subscribers are not. It's not that I'm disrespecting subscriber count. Why I say I don't care about subscribers is because I care about the relationships I form. It's not about what number I have or how much money you can make and monetization and all that stuff. It's about get to know me and have a relationship. And I'll just be straight up. There's some people I don't want to get to know. It is what it is. Okay. But like a Johnny, a Jeff, a Fish, an Adam, a Tony, I form that relationship, that bond, and you get to know them, and it's become so much more than movies. And so, yeah.
Well, and I touched on this a little bit in our back and forth leading up to this. I like watching what you're doing because you just want everybody to be comfortable being live so that you guys can sit around and BS with each other from across the country, and you guys are just making friends and discussing things that you really enjoyed discussing. I mean, yeah, some movies are not the greatest movies, but that's the fun part of it, is digging in and finding ones you've never found that you can enjoy again and again. So, and what better way to do that than to get to know somebody else who's had an appreciation for something that you've never heard of or never seen or whatever, and yeah, I'm like you, the back and forth conversations. And I'm sorry, I love to listen to when you have, 3 or 4 of them on your channel going at once and you guys are crap talking to each other and everything. I go to bed giggling. It's great. So, to me, it's fun to watch. So,
yeah, no, absolutely. Joe says this was a great conversation. It was wicked awesome to hear and see Nikki do the stream and hear her thoughts. Exactly. And because I didn't mention April. You didn't mention April. Now she has a baseball bat in her hands. She knows that her and Tony are my favorites. So
right.
Good night, Mr. Oates. Use that bat, April. Tony said, Tony, you're violent tonight. Bunch of hearts. All for you. April says, Johnny, you're making people think I beat you when I don't. I like picking on Johnny. Tiana, because he loves it. Tony's true colors coming out. Yeah, he does, Tony, and now he has a big head. I have a big head because April has fractured my skull and my brain is swelling. It's always the quiet ones.
Stop making her have falls, Johnny, and you won't have those lumps on your head.
Oh my gosh, Johnny. That's why he's so quiet, scheming and planning everyone's demise, Fish. And haha, Fish, exactly. It's always a fun hangout on Bob's channel. Doesn't feel like it's watching content, but more like chilling with your buds. And that was kind of what Monday was, just chill, just hang out. And that's what people actually enjoy, is just hang out sometimes. So my next stream will be with Joe next week, Wednesday. And then go outside and get some vitamin D. You look translucent.
Tom showed up.
So I'm going to do a stream with Joe, and then I'm going to be doing a stream with Mizzy the following week as well, where they watch the 10 movies I recommended to them. I haven't watched any movies for anybody's recommendation, so I don't know who will be next. It could be a couple weeks, it could be a month, but we'll see what happens when I get around to it. Maybe Corey will be next. I started one of his movies. So the thing is, I watch these movies from people's lists, and I mentioned this the other day, is there's some I'm like, yeah, I want to watch that. These look good. And then there's some I'm like, ugh, I don't want to watch that. And then your mood we talked about. You have to be in the mood for it. And if you're not in the mood for it, you might not like it. And I don't want to sit there and I wasn't in the mood. I think some movies I'm always in the mood for. I'm always in the mood for an officer and a gentleman. That's just my type.
Right.
But there's some where heavy or whatever it might be. If you're not in the mood for a depressing movie, you might not want to watch that in that moment. But I'm always up for depressing movies. That's always my cup of tea. So good night for Marie and I. Okay. Yep. I will see you next week. But I will let you talk about what you got coming up. I know you got something coming up with Corey and Jeff, so I'll let you talk about that, and then we're going to close out and get out of here.
On my birthday, on August the 11th, we are going to talk about that Paul Newman movie, The Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean. We're going to do that over on Jeff's channel, and hopefully that'll be a great conversation, because like I said, I really never knew too many people that have watched that movie, and it's just an all-around good movie from beginning to end. And so hopefully y'all will come and see us talk about that, and maybe a few of you will watch it before then, so you know what we're talking about. So
yeah, that's exactly it. Little hint here, but a teaser. Mizzy and I are working on a new show we're going to start, just Mizzy and I. And
awesome.
Speaking of, you announce something you're going to watch beforehand. I think this is fun because I don't want people to know, but I do think a lot of streams, you do want to give people the opportunity to watch the movie, because if you don't, then they can't discuss it in the chat.
Right.
It's 10 different movies. It would spoil it if they don't like the movies. They might not tune in. I don't want to do that. I'm never going to do that. I like the suspense of it. I like being like, what's number 1? What's number 9? And so, but different shows, you got to tell people what you're watching so they can prepare and watch it.
And by the way, I did finally buy and watch Minari. I know you recommended that to me way back. That was really good.
Okay, you liked it.
That was really good. Yeah. I was kind of surprised that I liked it as much as I did, but I couldn't help it. I love the grandma. That's me as a grandma. Just so you guys know, watch that movie, and I don't care if she don't speak no English. When that little boy gives her that pee, that's boy. He just don't know. But yeah, that was.
And he says, "How does pee taste?"
How does pee taste? And she's like, "Ooh."
Oh my goodness. Good night, Tony. Just a lot of good nights. Once again, it's the chat. Thank you, everyone who's here. You're always in the chat. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. With that being said,
thanks for asking me to come and do this, because I really had a good time with it. I'm glad you liked most of the movies, or at least half the movies. But
we're gonna get out of here. But thank you, everyone. Have a good night, and we'll see everyone on the next one.